Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. That with your WWE Clash in Paris Ultimate Preview. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and we will not only be breaking down everything that happened in the world of WWE over the last week, we will also be providing you with an ultimate preview for WWE's foray back to France, WWE Clash in Paris. As is always the case here at the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast, we have an absolutely loaded show ahead for you, so we're not wasting any time off the top. Allow the Silver King and Vintage, by the way, to remind you that the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast
is all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for us individually, the show as a whole. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the program. And don't forget to follow us everywhere on social media at Getting Overcast. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, and all of that good stuff. You can send in questions and comments for the show that we will do our best to read on the air. And around premium live events like WWE Clash in Paris, you have the opportunity to vote in pre- and post-show polls, both, of course, before and after the program goes off the air. Those will factor into our instant analysis podcast, which will come out Sunday afternoon as soon as WWE Clash in Paris goes off the air. Speaking of instant analysis, there are not one but two already waiting for you in our podcast feed coming out of the weekend. NXT Heatwave, AEW, NJPW Forbidden Door, two separate episodes awaiting your ear holes, so make sure you listen to those at some point before we come back to you this Thursday with our next NXT and AEW episode. So with all of that said, allow the Silver King to officially welcome in Vintage Chris Vanini for the program. Chris, for both you and I, this is a magical time of the year, also an extremely stressful time of the year. It is the start of college football, week 1 ahead. My Florida Gators, they're playing Long Island. That should be a cakewalk. We don't really get things started until week 3 against LSU. And then Miami, which is going head-to-head with WWE WrestlePalooza. You've already heard the Silver King complain a bit about that this past Thursday on our special WWE ESPN show. But Vintage, what does Michigan State have coming up that's your alma mater, and how excited are you for this 2025 college football season?
Excited for football. Michigan State plays Friday night, but I won't be able to watch it because I will be at Baylor Auburn down in Waco. I don't want to complain much, but it is the next, couple of months are going to be very busy, and we're going to do our best to make sure we get as many shows done as possible and timely as well. But WWE and wrestling going up against college football a lot more, it feels like this year than even last year.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot.
Last year, it felt like whenever it happened, you and I were largely okay with it. Like, it didn't necessarily impact us that much, but between this and WWE's announcement for NXT No Mercy taking place in Fort Lauderdale, a stone's throw from my house, and I'm not going to be able to go because I'm going to be in New York for a unrelated work event. The Ryder Cup is happening. Just frankly, terrible timing with some of these events in the next few weeks. And I think, through the 5+ years here of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, even when there's been schedule conflicts, we've been able to get stuff done. Just being frank and candid with everyone, the month of September is going to be really difficult. And I'm not sure how successful we will be with instant analysis in certain situations, but we will do our best to, of course, cover everything happening in the world of professional wrestling, as we always do. Chris, before we get on with the show, I believe there's some promotion you should probably be doing with the college football season starting. So let me kind of open the floor to you there.
Oh yeah, I stole a gimmick from this show, and I use it on my college football podcast, Bunch Formation. I am also reading 5-star reviews at the beginning of the show, and I had somebody, I forgot who it was, maybe I can pull it up, but somebody referred to me as Vintage. That's in funny. One of those reviews. I had to explain it to to my colleague, David Ubben. But the show's been doing well, so I have that going on. The old Until Saturday show we did is no longer happening. This is a new show, separate feed. So it was nice to see some Getting Overheads pop over to that show. So if you like college football, please check out Bunch Formation, and I appreciate those that have.
And make sure when you talk about like the Big 12, especially over there, that you're promoting, the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, because there is that connection. I know David, your co-host, is a Big 12 guy. Does he like wrestling at all or no?
He's a casual guy. Like, he used to watch it, doesn't as much anymore. Just he has 2 kids now, so it's hard to find the time. But yes, I mean, I did share my Obafemi story with a highlight that you had tweeted from a Heat Wave the other day. So a lot of college sports WWE crossover that I try to stay on top of as much as possible.
I was going to say maybe one day something will happen where it'll become a Getting Over Bunch Formation, combo podcast, an over formation podcast of some kind. We, of course, will circle back to that when the time comes. Now, normally this is where I'd kind of tease that we have a lot more left on the show to talk about, but I'm afraid I've got some news. Frankly, I don't. We covered a lot of what has been happening with WWE over those 2 special episodes covering the WWE ESPN deal, first a couple weeks ago and then again on Thursday. So I will refer you to that when it comes to WrestlePalooza airing on ESPN, the whole thing getting bumped up. I spent a significant amount of time speaking about that while on vacation, by the way. Let me give myself a little Barry Horowitz pat on the back for doing an extra long bonus show when that was transpiring. But that's in the podcast feed from last Thursday, so make sure you listen if you want the latest and accurate information about not only WWE WrestlePalooza, but also just the WWE ESPN deal, how that is going to work. And there's about a month left, a little under that now, for those other providers, YouTube TV and Xfinity specifically, to fix their carriage agreements to ensure that fans have free access to this new ESPN streaming service so they can get the WWE PLEs. Whether that happens or not, it really does remain to be seen, but it is definitely something that we will stay on top of here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Chris, in terms of Raw and SmackDown this week, both shows in Europe, SmackDown in Dublin, Ireland, Raw in Birmingham, England. I wanted to note that WWE, they had Joe Tessitore do the stand-up introduction before SmackDown, which was the first ever WWE live event from Dublin. And that was
first TV event.
Televised live event, right?
Yes.
That was such a smart move because the energy was wild there. He really got them amped up and going. I thought that was cool. SmackDown in totality was improved from prior weeks, in large part due to star power and crowd energy. But again, start to finish, you could just tell that show continues to lack creatively compared to Raw. Monday, I thought was solid all around. A couple great matches. But I actually thought the crowd, despite being loud, and I know this is weird for Silver King to say, it actually detracted from the show rather than enhance it. And I'm not sure if it was just the feed I watched live, which was all janky on Netflix, but the audio seemed all over the place during promos, like people weren't mic'd up well. That was odd. So yes, WWE, they had 2 hot crowds leading into a big European show, Clash in Paris, but I thought Dublin was fantastic. And Birmingham, I'm not saying it wasn't a good crowd, because really crowd volume for me is most important. The investment, watching the matches, rooting for the superstars, playing along with the promos. But I believe, and we'll get into this later in the show, I think they actively worsened the opening promo on Monday Night Raw. And that was a really important promo, not just for the company, but for the Roman Reigns character individually.
Well, look, it comes back to the thing we say every time over the last couple of years when they go to Europe now, which is like the crowds will sing songs. That's what they do. They do that actively during soccer games. It's not like soccer games are waiting for singing to stop before they start.
Yeah, but soccer games don't have people on a live microphone speaking.
No, but I've said this for a while, especially with the Randy Orton, all the singing and stuff, like in Cody, like the wrestler has to take control of the crowd and get into what they're doing. And you can't sit there and wait for minutes and minutes. And I know the crowd's excited. You want to keep them hot, but this is also a television show. And I'm sure they were singing a bunch before the show and will after the show. It happens so frequently now. It's not as special to a TV viewer. I'm sure it's special to everybody who's there in person, many of whom, again, may not have ever had a live TV show for WWE to be at. But the wrestlers have to just start.
You're right.
Going through it, I think. Like I'm not blaming the crowd for singing. That's what they do. I think it's happened so frequently now at this point.
Well, no,
Like,
it wasn't so much. It wasn't so much the singing that bothered me. It was Reigns was trying to get across. And again, we're previewing the latter part of the show. But Reigns was trying to get off specific story points about his character. Mm-hmm. And they just interrupted it by like going against what he was trying to say. But you made a great point, because there was a period of time, coming out of WrestleMania, especially when Jey Uso was World Heavyweight Champion, when he would be trying to say something serious on mic, and it actually was before WrestleMania and coming out of WrestleMania. He'd be trying to say a serious promo, but every time he paused, the crowd would go, yeet. And he actively at first didn't know what to do, but in latter promos, he would hold his hand up and say, stop. Like, I'm trying to get something across here, or let me speak. And they would quiet down, and he'd be able to say what he wanted to say. Roman Reigns has such cachet, just like Jay, just like Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, a couple others, where if he held out his hand and said, I have something serious to say, or I really want to get through this, or whatever the case, they would have quieted down. And he didn't do that. And to your point, sure, the crowd is to blame, but you know what? I didn't really think of it that way. Roman was to blame a bit as well.
In terms of maybe not going along with, maybe we save it for later, but Roman's promo, again, though, like, soccer fans will just sing during games and not like go, oh, or stuff like that when there's like a big play. So it's kind of its own separate thing going on. I love the energy. The crowds are hot. I was just in Europe. Wonderful place. I love it. Which is why, again, I'm not putting as much on the crowd. Like, WWE has leaned into this, leaned into the crowd doing it, leaned into the crowd, leaned into pausing to let the crowd do what they do. I'm not surprised they're going to try to do that.
It doesn't normally impact storytelling, though, with the exception of like a Raw after WrestleMania or something where, they can pretty much plan for it. There was an active story that they were trying to tell that got foiled by the crowd. And it made that segment to start Raw really difficult. So
what Adam is saying is they should have been in Lafayette, Louisiana.
You know what? In that one case, it probably would have been better for what they were trying to accomplish. But, let's put a pin in that, right? We're going to come back to that much later in the show, because we do have a 3-part edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Of course, the good, the bad, and the ugly, breaking down everything that happened on Raw and SmackDown. That's coming up. The show will end with your WWE Clash in Paris Ultimate Preview. So if you happen to be listening to this a lot closer to the weekend and you just want to hear our preview of all the matches, you can hit the timestamp in the episode description and skip to that. But as always, we kick off our breakdown of This Week in WWE by sliding into the main event.
This is the main event.
And this, frankly, surprisingly, all comes from SmackDown. John Cena obviously got an insane reaction to open hour 2 on the Blue brand, with Logan Paul immediately entering afterward. He did the extended ring announce, Cena did. And I repeat, the fact that he's still called the last real champion is absolutely ridiculous for a babyface character, okay? Just take that one line out.
Also, who's not the champion?
And he's not the champion anymore. But just take that one line out. You can keep the rest of the announce. Yeah. Just take out last real champion. That's all we're asking, okay?
Never seen 17 is a great line.
It's honestly awesome. That's so smart the way they put that together. But Logan comes out. He's getting a ton of heat, including FU Logan and STFU chants. Paul actually made a great point, saying WWE was muting them because they were cursing, so they're not doing themselves any favors. Logan said John was an actor playing wrestler these last few days or weeks or months, whatever he said, and a corporate puppet as well, who's willing to get naked at the Oscars. Meanwhile, Logan does what he wants, and he's the future of the industry. Logan said Cena's an imposter doing the same 5 moves for 23 years while working as an actor, whereas he, Logan, risks his life for the fans at every single PLE. He always stays true to himself, and he will be in WWE long after Cena is gone. This dude was sweating bullets. Apparently there wasn't air conditioning during the show or something like that. Maybe one of our listeners in Dublin can explain. Cena offered...
But much of Europe does not have air conditioning, by the way.
Yeah, Silver King could not survive there. I need air conditioning and ice. Those are 2 things I need, and my understanding is they're not plentiful, as you just explained. Cena offered some platitudes for Paul, calling him a future WWE champion and WrestleMania main eventer. Facts he knows to be true that actively make him upset to admit. But the fans believe he's a wanker, And he's not so much an outsider these days, but a disappointment because he doesn't respect the house of WWE. He uses it as a branding opportunity for a Pokemon card and a shitty drink. Cena pushed over the Prime station to a really big pop, saying Logan's wrestled 23 matches while he's wrestled 23 years, not just PLEs, pay-per-views, and TV shows, but live events with no cameras while he was still making vines, Logan was, with his brother. Cena had a great line that led to a middle finger, which was removed from the American broadcast, of course, saying he's made a career of giving back to the business while all Paul has done is take from it. Big moves and viral moments don't matter when you're not in WWE for the right reasons. He's not an outsider. He's a parasite sucking everything he can out of the business, including one of his final matches when John could be wrestling a list of people that we literally mentioned on the show 2 weeks ago. Among them was AJ Styles, who got a huge chant when his name was mentioned. Cena said Logan knows plenty about hustle, but nothing about loyalty or respect. And he had a great line about Paul's legal trouble. He said he wouldn't let a backflipping YouTuber with a drone selling salt water get the best of him. He'll either come correct or get the ever-loving shit beaten out of him. Logan shoved him a few times, ate an attitude adjustment, and I was happy remembering that this was not the go-home, that there's still something else to go this coming Friday. I got to give credit where it's due to Logan. He really worked his ass off cutting the opening promo in front of a crowd that had a volume level that would have knocked down far more experienced and talented wrestlers. While his content remained relatively one note, and he pretty much says the same thing every single time he comes out there, he did have some great lines and was frankly excellent because his promo set the stage for Cena's retort. Not only that, the way he acted flustered and affected by every single insult from Cena, that was perfect. Cena's promo individually was an A+. He basically disemboweled Paul. One fire line after another. It's funny because the Prime sponsorship, it's probably the one thing about Logan's WWE involvement that doesn't actually bother me. Like, it just makes sense for business. But Cena still managed to take that and twist it in a way to turn the fans on him even more. But it was hard to listen to Cena and not say, like, true, or more appropriately for this show, thank you, after each of his criticisms. The dude obviously got a fast track. He didn't pay his dues. He takes more than he gives. And he's booked in a match he doesn't deserve, given they already teamed and there's a finite number of Cena matches remaining. I found it pretty funny that Cena basically recited our list of should-be opponents, almost to a name, adding a few others. But that doesn't change the fact that WWE actively decided to book this of its own volition. Again, credit where it's due for Cena. This was tremendous from start to finish, and it did feel like a potential main event despite no title being on the line by the time it was over. I don't want this being booked. I don't want this match on the card, but as is so often the case with Logan Paul, and we said this with Drew McIntyre and Jelly Roll and Randy Orton, by the time we're kind of talking here on the Ultimate Preview into the go-home show of SmackDown, I actively care about the match and I want to see it happen.
I don't. I don't care. I thought they put in a good effort. Like, if you're telling me like John Cena and Logan Paul are fighting, I think they're doing the best they can to make it interesting. But I don't care. Like, it's the same thing that Logan says every time. It's the same thing people against Logan say every time. Cena says it in a more colorful way, in an engaging way, and the hot crowd helps. But at the end of the day, I'm not excited about this. And listing all the other people he could be wrestling, acknowledging that. I'm like, yeah, I would much rather see that. All of us would much rather see that. It feels like this is just being forced upon us.
Oh, it is.
And because, like, it's more of a kind of a bigger topic, but on this type of stuff, nobody buys that Logan Paul has like free reign for what he wants to do in WWE. Like, we know the sponsorship, we know Unreal, we see all the sponsors on the mat. Like, WWE, the company, is the heel in all of this. We are mad at WWE for having Logan Paul here.
Well, we should
not
be
mad at Logan Paul because we have pulled back kayfabe so much that, like, I'm mad at WWE for fast tracking Logan Paul more than I am Logan Paul for what he's doing. I think we're just in an era now where, like, I don't necessarily buy that. Same thing with the Jelly Roll thing. We all know it's fake. Like, you've told us it's fake. So it's like, I can't buy into that as much.
I think what you're missing though is, like, we should be mad at WWE, and you and I are angry at WWE for booking this as one of Cena's last matches. But the reason why this was so successful is because they made Logan Paul the bad guy, and they achieved that goal in this segment. That's why I enjoyed it so much. And I also want to clarify my take here. When I say I'm looking forward to this match now and I care about the match, I'm saying they succeeded in making the fan care about this match. They succeeded in selling this to the audience. I was speaking as like a royal we in that type of situation. The editorial. I wasn't so much saying I, Adam Silverstein, the Silver King, am happy now that John Cena and Logan Paul are fighting at Clash in Paris, potentially in the main event of the show, because I am not. But they sold this regardless of the fact of what you said, which, by the way, is completely accurate. Pretty much, I'd even say with the exception of the Jelly Roll thing, because that was a little bit unique. It was two celebrities, and Logan was doing, hey, you're the outsider this time deal. Every other Logan Paul feud is indeed, this is the term you were searching for, Chris. It's like missionary position.
It's the same thing over and over and over. It's like missionary position every single night. And the tribal chief, the head of the table, we're not interested in that. No.
At some point, if Logan is truly going to be taken seriously in WWE and feel like a legitimate superstar and not an outsider, then they need to start doing programs with him where he's not an outsider, where he costs someone a championship of his own volition, or he gets into an argument backstage with someone over something specific. He decides to go after a title, loses a number one contendership, and then fights with the person that cost him that match. Like, let's say it's a 4-way or something like that. They have to give him wrestling storylines. And instead, the storylines are, you're Logan Paul, you're a piece of shit, and I hate you.
Yeah. And like, Logan Paul is very talented, by the way. He's very good on the mic. He's very good in the ring. However laid out the matches you want to talk about. Like, he can do a lot of impressive stuff. That's why it's so frustrating that they keep going back to the same well. I feel like there's a lot of potential here, and they don't tap into it. Maybe because he's not there every week, you can't go that deep. I don't know, but I just feel like there's so much more you could do here.
There's a lot more you could do. And you know what? The way this segment went, it seemed to me like there was a clear understanding from WWE, and this doesn't rectify the fact that the match is happening. But it seemed like there was an understanding that fans didn't really want this to be one of Cena's final matches. And right. Cena, AJ Styles specifically, based on the way the crowd reacted and the way this kind of went down, is a match that needs to happen. I'm not saying it will. It's just that the way Cena mentioned it, the way the crowd responded to it, it came across as if we know that is a box that needs to be checked on the way out. Did you feel the same way? Yeah.
So the acknowledgement is, I guess, acknowledged by us, and maybe the AJ reaction is a sign for them. All right, maybe he's only got so many dates left. He's not going to be able to hit everybody on that list probably. So right. AJ Styles is probably at the top of that list.
He should be.
He should be, given who he hasn't wrestled yet and who he has a bit of a history with. So it felt like, It felt like them saying, we're going to get there. Like, we know.
Kind of.
And so that's okay. But you're still wasting a second John Cena match and multiple appearances on Logan Paul.
That's the thing.
Logan Paul, by the way, will gain nothing from this, by the way. He will not be any bigger by working with Cena for a second time than he will coming in. It's a complete waste of time. That's
the biggest frustration. And I'm so glad you said that. There is no benefit to Logan. I mean, if they book him to win, then he can say, I have a win over John Cena on his retirement tour. In theory, that would be something. But if they don't book him to win, then it's just Cena beating Logan Paul, and Logan flashed like he always gets to flash, and he didn't need to fight Cena in order to do it. He could fight Jacob Fatu and flash against him, right? I mean, talk about divergent personalities and storylines, right? Jacob working his entire career to get in, Logan just being given everything on a silver platter. You could have run that storyline, done something really interesting with Jacob, let John fight someone else. But the other thing that you said is what's so important. We're focused on the match. Oh, it sucks that one of Cena's final matches is Logan. What a waste. That's not really what the waste is. The waste is 3 weeks of television appearances and a match, all being about Logan. That's the frustration. I don't know what his number is, but after Clash in Paris, it's got to be in the single digits.
Probably.
And who else is he going to be working with? Like, all these missed opportunities, even with the people he's named. AJ Styles, he could potentially win the Intercontinental Championship. If he does, and Cena wants to have a match where he tries to win the one title that eluded him in his WWE career, that is a way to make that match happen. But that shouldn't be the retirement match. So is that Gunther? Like, is he coming back from his nose surgery? Will he be healthy in time to do that match? Does it wind up being Jacob Fatu or Dominic Mysterio? Maybe it is. And maybe by the time this is all over, we look at it and say, well, you know, the heel turn initially was great, and the SummerSlam match was great, and he got to fight all these opponents. So while it may not have been a perfect retirement, at least like a lot got accomplished. But as of right now, I mean, there's no Miz, there's no AJ Styles, there's no Dominic Mysterio, Braun Breaker, Jacob Fatu. Like, these are a lot of names here.
By the way, we still have Brock Lesnar coming.
Brock Lesnar's going to take up one of these, right, in September, and you know that's going to at least include, at least 1 week of build, if not 2. So that's 3 more appearances that are getting thrown out. I'm glad you mentioned Lesnar. So what does he have, 4 left after that? Like,
that's the problem.
It's
that's
really
my
getting
biggest
tight.
Issue is we just twice, because you include the tag team match.
Yeah.
When he was with him as well. This is so much time on Logan Paul for nothing. Logan Paul can do anything in WWE.
Yeah.
You'll get your social media numbers. You'll get your Prime stuff. You don't need to throw Cena's retirement tour onto that twice. You want to do it once, like, okay, but twice is too much.
If Cena was going through WrestleMania, it would be fine. But he's not. He's going through December 13th.
Yeah.
I mean, that's extremely close. It's crazy. That's before the end of the college football season, technically. So, like, that's crazy. Anyway, there's more that happened on SmackDown. Logan later came across Drew McIntyre backstage. McIntyre chastised Paul for getting bested and embarrassed in the ring with Cena, saying he's clearly scared by the mystique that John has. While John may be great, he's 48 years old. It's not 2010. He's not Super Cena. He's weaker and beatable. Meanwhile, Logan is still in his prime, and he should take a note from what Drew did to Cody Rhodes. Take Cena out and make things right before the end of the night. Whatever it takes. McIntyre repeated that twice. Whatever it takes. The closing segment of the show was then Nick Aldis pulling Cena aside to inform him that he had some type of update about Lesnar, only for Paul to run in with a cheap shot haymaker, leaving Cena motionless in the parking lot. I wasn't necessarily a fan of McIntyre being saddled with Paul initially, but you do have to admit they work well together as a pair. Not only that, Logan actually showed Drew some respect, unlike anyone else, and even said yes, sir, to his instructions, which kind of gave credence to what Cena said earlier. Paul actually does need to listen and take advice. This became a lot more interesting to me than I thought it would be initially. The haymaker at the end, it left a lot to be desired, but some of you may not have noticed this because I was able to watch the international feed. It got reshot for American television. So the one that you saw on USA Network was better than what actually happened live, where Logan pretty much missed his face with the drive-by. But the key to all of this was the drive-by haymaker was similar to what McIntyre did with the drive-by Claymore into the table. And it was an idea from the beginning that this was meant to be parallel, because McIntyre was like, do what I did, but pretty much your own way. The other thing I wanted to mention, because I've seen this, got comments about it and stuff. Why is Logan Paul's thing just a punch? The first year and a half of his WWE career, they told us time and again, beat us over the head, that his hand has metal plate in it or something like that from a surgery he had to have. So it's a loaded right hand. Now, maybe they need to tell that story a little bit more on television and reiterate that it's a loaded haymaker or whatever the case, but it's not just a regular punch that's knocking these dudes out. It's a piece of metal in his hand. That's why he uses the move. So I just wanted to add that there at the end, Chris. I did enjoy this, though, with McIntyre and Paul, and the end shot kind of doing a drive-by and then running away like a chicken shit. I thought it played for his character.
I do like him and Drew working together. It gives him somebody to work off of and do something that's more interesting than, again, repeating the same promo in front of the crowd or an opponent. It's interesting, him and Drew. I like that. In terms of the punch, I thought the initial one was better.
Interesting.
Because when they reshot it, they have Paul come at Cena from the front. he moves all this out of the way and then
Right.
punches him. The first one, he just clocks him from the side. And like, even if he, missed him pretty badly, like visually, I thought it was more impactful than just Cena sees him coming and like is not ready to defend himself. I thought, if you're going to reshoot it, why not reshoot it the same way? I don't know. That was weird. I like the initial one more than the reshoot. The reshoot also like looked kind of cinematic, the way they filmed it, like a little bit differently than the way WWE normally does it. But yeah. So overall, I liked it. I didn't see a need to reshoot, but maybe that's
I
just me.
did just because he missed it so cleanly. Like he didn't come anywhere near his face. But I understand what you're saying with the run at. But I think the idea was it was A, so sudden, and B, he was running into Nick Aldis's back. So even if you're Cena and you see this guy like coming, you're just like, he's like running straight into Aldis, and then he shoved him away and did it. So was it perfect? No, I did think it was better though, just by comparison. That's
Fair enough.
just my opinion.
Agreed.
McIntyre interrupted the broadcast later in the show, pretty much between those two segments. He got between Tessitore and Wade Barrett looking for the script to see if there was a medical update on Cody Rhodes that they weren't sharing. He called Rhodes a little bitch, telling him to hug the WWE Championship tight because the next time they fight, he's ending him and taking it. Drew even said not a single person has given him any grief backstage for taking Cody out. Clearly, he has no more friends in WWE that believe in him and have his back. The crowd was totally eating this up, and they were going wild for McIntyre. And then, in some of the best segment timing that WWE's had all year, the fans suddenly start going crazy, seemingly for no reason. All of a sudden, Randy Orton pops up from out of the frame just behind McIntyre, hitting him, of course, with an RKO out of nowhere to end the segment with the fans singing voices. But what was really weird is WWE cut away from the singing. And that's one of the cool things about being in Europe, as we just talked about, extensively here in the opening, the singing and all this type of shit. But this segment with Drew was exactly what it needed to be. I actually wish McIntyre got more mic time here. You could have combined last week's segment into this one, and both shows probably would have been better for it, because last week you would have gotten more from other people, and this week McIntyre would have gotten more time. The Orton return was extremely well placed, considering Rhodes McIntyre wasn't going to happen at Clash in Paris, as we told you. So you can run that for the title at WrestlePalooza alongside Cena and Lesnar and whatever winds up getting booked on the Raw side for the men and women. And that is going to end up being a big show, which WWE wants it to be, I assume based on the name, but also because it's the debut on ESPN. The top two storylines on SmackDown, for me, really hit Friday night, and the show was much better because of it, even if there were still major holes on the women's side.
Yeah. Like McIntyre stuff's good. I think WrestlePalooza, as we keep saying it out loud, I think my biggest problem with it is the name is so stupid.
It really is
like,
silly. Yeah.
Like WrestleMania, like sounds a little bit goofy, but it's been around forever. That like you're fine with it, and also like it worked for the time, and then it eventually grew out. Nobody says Palooza nowadays unless we're talking about Lollapalooza in Chicago. But like, I think I can't take you're like laying this out like seriously, and then saying WrestlePalooza, and I'm like, that sounds so bad. The name sucks. It's bad. But Drew was good, and yeah, like just wasn't a ton, like you said, but I thought he's doing a good job. And I'm interested in what he's doing and whenever Cody gets back.
Do you think WrestlePalooza is the worst name for a WWE special since Great Balls of Fire?
I was going to say Great Balls of Fire was worse.
What was funny about that is by the time the show aired, and if memory serves, given that time in WWE was so poor creatively, I remember the show being good, like for that time. But by the time it aired and they had the theme song, and I think everyone was in on the joke. So like it played kind of, even if it was a terrible name for a show, and it still
like
is.
what even was the joke to like placate Vince McMahon? I didn't even get what it was. All I remember,
everything done was that. So there's that line in Speed. I forgot the character's name, but it's Dennis Hopper, right? And he's like, at the whims of a madman. That was WWE for 15 years. It was whatever the madman Vince McMahon wanted, they would do. A nonsensical storyline, a ridiculous Money in the Bank cash-in, redoing a Money in the Bank cash-in, Great Balls of Fire as a pay-per-view name. That's just the shit they did.
Yeah, like Stomping Grounds was bad, but
Stomping Grounds was bad as well.
Great Balls of Fire was all I remember about that was the Samoa Joe Brock Lesnar match. It's the
What
only
an
thing I
incredible
remember
match, man. That whole time when Samoa Joe was feuding with Lesnar, and they did the match also with Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. I want to say at SummerSlam in Brooklyn. Maybe that's correct. I loved that. The Samoa Joe, Paul Heyman segment in the ring, the feud with Lesnar, that shit was great.
Yes. No, yeah, totally. I agree.
You know what else was a bad name I'm thinking of? I was trying to come through it. That's why I was wasting time. WWE Extreme Rules.
And that is gonna be a horror show. How do you like that, huh?
The horror show. Do you remember that
God,
shit?
I remember that. That was the same year COVID when we had the greatest match of all time.
Yeah, greatest wrestling match ever or whatever. Yeah.
God, what a weird.
I
time.
think I honestly
COVID
think
was weird, man.
I honestly think the horror show at Extreme Rules, I believe that's worse than Great Balls of Fire.
It's Great Balls of Fire is worse. I can't.
Why do they call it the horror show? I don't recall there being like.
I don't care, but it's like.
Was that where the Bray Wyatt match was with Strowman in the swamp or something?
I think so.
Maybe that's why. Oh my God. What? This is why. Okay, this is why. When like we criticize WWE on this show, and sometimes vociferously, we get angry and we get amped up and whatever. If we think back to the beginning of this podcast, forget about the pandemic part of it, but even years prior to that, like 2016 to 2019 WWE, if we got a Raw or a SmackDown like we do weekly now, then we'd be like, oh my God, that's the greatest show of the year. Now we're like, it's the worst show of the year.
For the complaints about Triple H's booking over the last year, for the complaints about TKO, you got to remember how bad it was before then. It was so much worse.
It was so bad. Now the TKO stuff with all the ads and shit, that would be bad no matter when you do it. I mean, and that's frustrating to us regardless. But yes, when it comes to the booking and some of this stuff and shows, even when they're getting scheduled, we really do need to kind of take it into context sometimes. Shit was really, it was difficult to watch professional wrestling not that long ago, and it's much easier now, even if we have our frustrations still because we want everything to be, as good and perfect as it possibly can be. All right, Chris, that was an extended main event, went longer than we expected. There's still a ton left on the show. Don't forget, the WWE Clash in Paris Ultimate Preview is coming up in full. We will talk again about John Cena and Logan Paul there. But before we get to any of that, we need to cover everything else that happened across Raw and SmackDown, not directly related to Clash in Paris. And we're doing that in the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hey, yo. Survey says one more for the good guy.
Say hello to the back.
Don't sing it. Bring it.
Now, before we get into this entire breakdown, I would be remiss if I did not remind you that here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit us at buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every single week. Again, it is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. We're a free show. We're an ad-free show. We would greatly appreciate your financial support. Now, getting into this breakdown. Adam Pearce backstage informed Stephanie Vaquer that she will not wrestle for the WWE Women's World Championship at Clash in Paris. However, she remains the number one contender and will be informed of her opponent, singular, and timing of her match next week on Raw. This was bad and, frankly, relatively pathetic. By the time this announcement is made next week, it will have been a month since Naomi knew she was pregnant and WWE knew they had to make a creative change to this division. Meanwhile, Vaquer, who went on that incredible run of wrestling matches, pretty much from WrestleMania up into a month ago, she has been on ice ever since then. Not only sidelined waiting for the Naomi feud, but kept out of the ring, which would have at least kept her fresh in the minds of fans who really care about her and were buying into her. They may be equally as hot by the time that she gets into this match, but she has done absolutely nothing of late to be relevant. Even this segment with Pierce, and I get she's a babyface, but she's like, okay, Adam, I'll just wait until next week. No, you should be angry, frustrated. This isn't fair. Why are you doing this to me? I should be champion. Anything like that. And they gave her no personality, no equity in herself here. Why would WWE not announce the decision on this show? And why does it sound like one other woman is going to be chosen as an opponent? That's basically awarding a free second number one contendership as opposed to forcing someone to earn the opportunity with Vicaire waiting for that other person, as she should be because she's number one contender. And if you do it that way, Stephanie has the kayfabe advantage that she deserves. If anyone does get this other number one contendership, Chris, the only name in my head is Io Sky because she never got her promised scheduled rematch with Naomi when Naomi made her pregnancy announcement. And if it is going to be Io, then why would we need to wait another week for that to be set when, again, they were the two women who should be contending for the title? Also, if it's going to be Io, as much as I loved the fact that I think it was Roxanne Perez beat her a couple weeks ago, why are you having her lose that match if she's going to be number one contender here? So I think the women's booking on Raw has actually been fantastic, largely this year, but especially since WrestleMania. This is the one area where I am completely dumbfounded at what they're doing. As I said a moment ago, this is bad.
Well, my guess is, in fairness to them, obviously the Naomi pregnancy threw a wrench into things. And my guess is it's Io, but they're also having to let the Io Rhea thing kind of play out the way it's currently going, because Io is in the middle of something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was last week Naomi announces the pregnancy, the week prior when she got pulled from the show. So they have known about this for several weeks because you wanted to hold it for the podcast and let her make her announcement and do all that stuff. And you want the Io thing to play out. So like if Stephanie Vicaire has to kind of just sit back for a couple of weeks as you just kind of let a couple things play out, that's fine. That's totally fair. I think my only real complaint is what you said, which is Stephanie Vicaire should be either pissed or angry or emotive or scratching clawing at the bit or something. Just like, give me my opponent now, as opposed to just kind of like being like, okay. I think that's my actual criticism of it.
Yeah, I don't mind the idea of waiting because they need to unfurl whatever, change story they're going to do. That's okay. But if you're going to be doing that, you can't keep this woman on ice. She should be, if I don't get my title match this week, I want to wrestle. Put her in the ring with Ivy Nile. Let her get her win in 7 minutes. But put her on television.
Yeah.
You don't keep her on ice like this when she's the number one contender this entire time. It shows no agency in her own character. And that's ridiculous because she was crazy, crazy over. I was right. Io lost to Roxanne Perez 2 weeks ago, which again, I was fine with happening the way they did it. But if this is the booking, Chris, and Io is going to be the other contender, then why are you having her lose that match at that time?
But that's 2 weeks ago when around the time they find out about the pregnancy. So like, I don't know if they had it all worked out then. And Io was in the middle of her thing at that time.
I believe that was the show that she was going to challenge for the title, that they called it off because they already knew that Naomi, but they had her lose there is what I'm saying.
They did, but like, they just maybe at that time had not decided if Io would be the person.
Well, yeah,
and
maybe
they were in the middle of the story with Rhea.
That's very possible because they did use that to tell the whole Kabuki Warriors trying to save, but screwing her over in the end. So,
Io's got stuff going on over the last several weeks.
It's just weird.
An ongoing story that is.
It's just weird if she's going to be the other title contender to have her lose like that, just like someone else lost.
They may not have at the moment. I'm saying at the moment they may not have decided Io would be the person, and we don't actually know Io was the person either.
We don't. Yeah, we're speculating. But again, if it's one individual, right? Like it's not going to be Roxanne Perez because she lost this week on television. So
you know who it still could be though. Which I said before, could be Rhea Ripley.
It could be Rhea Ripley. That's the only person who I don't think has lost singles.
Right. It goes back to what I've said before is if you're going to have Stephanie be the person, you want her to beat Rhea to kind of get that,
I mean, her beating Rhea would be a moment.
It's a much bigger deal than beating Io. No offense to Io.
Yeah, Rhea's only had one singles match. I'm trying to see since when. I'm literally going through. She's had 2 singles matches this summer. One was Night of Champions, and her first singles match since then was this past week on Raw, which we're going to talk about momentarily. So she's 2-0 in singles, I guess, coming out of WrestleMania-ish, I want to say. Looks like she has a couple others between WrestleMania and now. But yeah, Ripley would be the one person where you could say she doesn't have a loss on her resume, singles loss. So you could put her in that spot.
Oh, I guess I need to grade this. I'll say bad, but just, I think, not as bad as you.
not as don't dislike it as much as I did. Fair enough.
Yep.
We'll circle back to Rhea Ripley and Roxanne Perez and all this momentarily. Let's first move over to SmackDown, where Becky Lynch appropriately opened the show despite making a cross-brand appearance in Dublin and got some crazy loud chants that intersected with one another. She was actually kind of speechless. If you read her book, you know how meaningful this particular moment was for her. The fans chanted, "We deserve it," referring to getting their first live televised event, which was really cool. After a perfect babyface opening that recalled her childhood, Lynch said the fans in attendance don't actually deserve this, to which they chanted, "We want Lyra," and "Shut the F up." Beck said she's not a hero letting them down. They're letting down their hero. She went on bragging about all her accomplishments and got big time heat, saying she has a very hot American husband. So they chanted CM Punk. And she said, "No one wants that old ass." If there was ever a time for AJ Lee to return to WWE, it was right there. It would have been crazy if she showed up. Lynch was angry about other Dubliners getting more press and attention than her when she's accomplished more than them. She had a great line shitting on Bono, a babyface move as far as I'm concerned. She talked about Katie Taylor not being able to cut a promo, which if you've ever heard Katie Taylor is hysterical. Tiffany Stratton interrupted, calling her ungrateful and lost given she's on Raw. Out came Nia Jax, who shoved her. That led to a double attack and Jade Cargill's save. Bex tried to sneak up on Jade, so Tiffy got her back, and Nick Aldis made the expected main event tag team match. Playa. It's funny how booking is not just commonplace now, but weekly on SmackDown again, where you do a brawl, you get a tag team match at the end of the show. Not that I was complaining getting Becky into a big match in Dublin, but they literally just did this last week with the men. WWE has done such a poor job booking Stratton over the last 6 months that I'm being honest. When she entered, I audibly groaned. That should not happen. Now, to be fair, she did cut her best promo in months. This gets a good purely due to Lynch, who was literally at her best rocking the mic to open the show. Expert level stuff, goat shit, best to ever do it, however you want me to say it. Her ability to go from white meat babyface to ultra heel in her home country, changing that on a dime, that shit should be taught in the WWE Performance Center. I continue to have zero interest in this apparent triple threat booking, but for one night, it made it a worthwhile vehicle to get Becky wrestling in her home country.
A couple things. I listened to Becky's new song a lot more over the weekend. And I really coming around to it on just liking the song itself. The two problems. One, it needs to cut out the opening where it says the man comes around and then the slow kind of into the guitar and drums. It's to just start with the guitar and the drums. The dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, like that's where it should start. It's such a like slow start into the song, which is actually a good song. And second of all, it's completely a face song. Like if you just kind of listen to the lyrics and everything. And I did like that she referenced it. She said, "I'm in nobody's shadow." It's right there in my song. Mm-hmm. That was a very funny line from her. And yeah, it was just masterful heel promo work. And Tiffany comes out, and I groan the way you did, only because like this was all perfectly set up for Lyra.
Yes.
Like, and I know Lyra can't wrestle her.
She can't wrestle her for the title.
Wrestle for the title. But I was like, man, if there was any like,
I know.
Like you're not gonna. It's the hometown person. The only way to like up that is another home country person. Like it's right there. Lyra's reaction would have been gigantic. That like, and Tiffany did fine. It was like totally fine.
Yeah.
I was like, it was just like.
But you're right. Like, look, Lyra is over even in the United States, and they've done a really good job with her. Even though, again, they've kind of iced her out a little bit, just having her do backstage segments for 5 weeks. But if you want the crowd to understand that she's a big deal, you bring her out right there, because the roof would have blown off the place. Not that she's a bigger star than Becky, not for any other reason then. She would have been the perfect person in the moment, other than AJ Lee, of course, with the CM Punk line. She would have been the perfect person to come out there and counter her.
Because she's talking down about Ireland.
Right.
So who's gonna, like, it's not like Tiffany came out and like defended Ireland. Like,
Right. Why would she? Yeah.
There wasn't really a spot for that. So that was the only thing, but I thought all the work was very good.
Yeah. It's tough to have like a criticism of that segment because it was so hot, but that's why we're here, right? To pick apart shit that we should just flatly like. Stratton backstage told Cargill she didn't want her help, but Jade said her focus was ensuring Tiffy remained healthy so she would be able to defend the title against her again soon. It's worth reiterating here. Stratton beat Cargill clean. Jade has done absolutely nothing to deserve another championship match. Jax later approached Lynch, saying their team up was out of necessity. Bex agreed, saying they're mortal enemies, and Dublin needs to remember how much they need to respect her. So Nia had to get on her page if she wanted them to team up successfully. This actually led me to completely delete like 2 different notes I had written because I had written down, I really don't like how Becky and Nia are just like thrown together without addressing their long-term beef, but they went ahead and did that. So I got to give a thumbs up and a gold star to SmackDown Creative for the continuity there. The Stratton Cargill stuff, that was dumb. The Lynch Jax segment was good, sensible, logical, creative. And that brought us to the actual match. Stratton and Cargill against Lynch and Jax. This indeed main evented the show. Tiffy did a swanton bomb outside into the heels after the bell, but they were so far away, she basically landed flat on the floor. Really not a good look. Becky and Jade, unsurprisingly, worked incredibly well together. Lynch ultimately left the ringside area, seemingly because she was scared of Cargill, but she blind tagged Jax first. Nia squashed Jade into the corner, but Cargill countered Annihilator with a powerbomb. Stratton then hit prettiest moonsault ever, with Cargill landing a frog splash for the babyface win. Good match. And again, proof that, look, Jade may be a capable singles wrestler, but she is a perfect tag team wrestler, being able to go in spurts with a crazy level of energy and effort. I'm sure WWE doesn't want her in that role, given whatever she's being paid, but they could probably build the whole division around her if they actually wanted to. The way she and Stratton worked together as a first-time team and how impressive she looked in the short burst with Lynch, that was just proof of this. Hopefully the Jade pin of Nia eliminates her as a challenger. But Chris, I just have a feeling we're headed for a triple threat here. I have not come around to this booking, but as a one-off, it absolutely worked on Friday night.
Also, speaking as a one-off, that's a Raw superstar in Becky Lynch on SmackDown, by the way.
Yeah, we mentioned that at the beginning, but she's in Dublin, Ireland, and they addressed it also. Tiffy's like, you don't belong here. And she's like, I know. It's Dublin.
It was good. I'm with you kind of heading toward triple threat, it feels like. But I enjoyed everything. Tiffany's swanton onto the outside, that was a pretty rough landing. Glad she's okay and all that. But I'm more interested in what obviously Becky is doing, and that's over on Raw. This just feels kind of like we're going in circles a bit. And like, it's fine, but Tiffany should have lost to Jade at SummerSlam because there's nothing else for her to do. And we're seeing that. At
least if she lost to Jade and then you wanted to run this triple threat, you had an argument for it. Tiffy wants her title back. Nia I don't think has fought Jade, or at least hasn't fought her for a title. There'd be reason to do it this way. Instead, there's just not. Right. But SmackDown killed its own women's division because this is what they decided to do. Well, first of all, Bianca Belair got hurt. They didn't plan for that. So that sucks. It happened at WrestleMania. She would have probably been heavily involved in whatever's happening right now. She gets hurt. Okay. Then you take Naomi and you say, why don't you go over to Raw as champion, which ended up being great, but they take her off. Then they pair Charlotte and Alexa. So 4 main event level competitors they took out of the main event division on SmackDown. They did it to themselves. Well, 3 of the 4. Other Bianca, of course, getting hurt.
Yes.
But those decisions were made after Bianca was hurt. So that's still important to recognize. Charlotte Flair fought Piper Niven. Flair ate Boss Man Slam early after fans chanted for Chelsea Green. It's really cool. They love Chelsea. I know Piper is Scottish, not Irish. It felt kind of unintentionally disrespectful to me for them to chant for Chelsea when like Piper is literally wrestling in this match and Charlotte's there too. Charlotte avoided Vader bomb, delivered a big boot plus a picture perfect moonsault. Maybe her best moonsault in years. Seriously, for a false finish. Green regime distracted during a figure 8 with Chelsea fully raking Charlotte's eyes, like almost out of a horror movie. Niven squashed Flair into the corner and then hit Piper Driver for the win. Obviously, I loved this booking. Piper needed a big win so badly, and doing it in Europe must have felt nice. Sure, it wasn't clean, but she's a heel, and she beat, a 14-time world champion, who, by the way, has only lost singles matches to like a dozen people in her entire WWE career. I love that for Piper. Besides the booking, the match was high quality, lots of twists and turns going both ways. Charlotte wrestled as well as she has since returning at the Royal Rumble. I would have absolutely loved another 5 minutes here, but it's a definite good and a simple way to create a women's tag team title match, presumably in Paris next week, whether on SmackDown or whether on the bigger show.
Yeah, shout out to Piper, man. That was awesome. Very well deserved. We think back to when they did Clash at the Castle in Scotland and she lost. And there had been some opportunities of can you give her a win in the hometown, and it didn't happen. And this obviously isn't the hometown, the home country, whatever. But that's huge, man. Pinning Charlotte? That's a big deal. It does not happen. And she's someone who has been kicking ass for a while, deserves more attention and love, especially from that crowd. But it's also a credit to Chelsea Green for being very good. It's why we love Piper and Chelsea together. Frankly, I think they were much better as a duo than they are with the Secret Service stuff with Alba Fire just kind of thrown in there, because it kind of just you're losing that direct dynamic between the two of them, which was so good. But this was great.
Oh! Yes! I love that!
I do agree that there's a little bit lacking with the addition of Alba Fire, but I don't think it's because of Alba. I just think they're getting fewer backstage segments. We were getting constant...
Well, just more people.
Well, we were getting constant Chelsea and Piper talking to each other. Now it's kind of Chelsea and Alba in the background. Excuse me, Piper and Alba in the background, as Chelsea just does the talking against whatever person she's feuding with. So we need more. This goes across every single brand in WWE. I should just say the main roster brands, but groups and factions. We need time for them to develop relationships amongst each other. We're just starting to get it the last 3 weeks with the Vision on Raw. We don't have it at all with MFT on SmackDown. We need it again with Green Regime on SmackDown. So I just wanted to make that. Oh, and Judgment Day. Judgment Day is a great example of when you're developing storylines within the faction, stable, group, whatever you want to call it. It just makes them naturally more interesting, and that plays into what happens on screen. So they badly need to start doing that on SmackDown. They do it successfully, largely, over on Raw. Speaking of Judgment Day, they were again concerned seeing Dominic Mysterio talking to El Grande Americano backstage. This preceded a match where Finn Balor got ejected from ringside immediately. We never saw Americano again during the show. That match was Dragon Lee against JD McDonough. I realized during his ring walk, Dragon's kind of looking like Batman, like dark eye makeup under the mask, literal wings on his entrance gear. This match was awesome with commercials. I got a chance to see it without them, and it was even better. Dragon did a tope con hero early. JD answered with an anti-air dropkick, hit a massive superplex that he sold himself on landing. Dragon hit a rebound German suplex and Poison Rana. JD came back with a counter running Spanish fly. Dragon then answered with an awesome Liger bomb that McDonough sold like death, and his hanging double stomp, not from the top rope, from the ring post for 2 different rope breaks. Dominic ran down to help. AJ Styles ran him into the ring post. Lee ultimately won with Operation Dragon. To Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, his best reaction since joining the main roster. This was an exceptional wrestling match. McDonough sold his ass off at every opportunity. It was by far the most over Dragon has been with the crowd in a long time. Like I said, maybe ever, at least since he was cooled off and disappeared from television for no reason whatsoever for that 3-4 month span. What was frustrating about this is he's still an LWO, and therefore those guys probably should have been there having his back. That was a bit of a logic flaw, but the whole purpose was to integrate Dom and AJ into it. 4 stars, A-, a damn good segment. This is how you start a television show with an in-ring match. Got the crowd crazy.
So we now have 2 winged wrestlers, I guess. We've got Lyra coming out with the wings, and now Dragon Lee's coming out with wings too.
Yeah, so. But dragons were animatronic. They moved and shit. It was crazy.
No, he looked awesome. That was I didn't even know it was him. I was
I'm telling you,
it's
the
the
eye
same
black
dragon.
totally changed his look. It's a weird small thing to change, but the dude looks like Batman. It's really, really weird.
Well, he looked bigger. He looked more muscular. Just everything about him looked way, way better. And I was like, oh, like he's catching my attention visually in a way he didn't before. So, good step. I'm just in general not as high on him as you are, but
Oh, you don't need to be. Yeah.
it was one of the few times I've been like, oh, like he's got my attention here, and I'm paying attention, and I'm not turning my head to my computer or something like that. So very interesting and good. And the match was great, obviously.
Yeah, they got to really keep up the momentum now. Like, strike while the iron is hot. Use this guy. Let him pair with someone else and challenge for the tag team titles. Like, that's what needs to happen. Balor backstage was angry Mysterio wasn't able to get the job done helping in the match. Dom pointed out that Finn was the one who got ejected. Raquel Rodriguez calmed them down with Dom saying Finn knows AJ so well that he should just take care of that problem for him. Balor agreed, I'll get a match made. The Judgment Day women later, in a commercial break promo, told Byron Saxton not to wedge drive Roxanne Perez. She didn't do herself any favors by not speaking directly into the mic. Her voice is just too small to not have that thing right up in her grill so she can really enunciate, and whatever beat she has in her voice can reach the actual crowd. So that was just an aside segment. We had Io Sky backstage finding Rhea Ripley, thanking her for the help last week. Io reiterated that she respects Rhea, but Kabuki Warriors are her family, so they may need to keep their distance from each other. Ripley said the respect was mutual and she understood, but as she walked away, Sky grabbed her hand and wrist, thanked her for understanding, and gave her a big hug. Asuka and Kairi Sane saw all of this happening from the background. Asuka flipped her shit. Kairi again kind of stood there stuck, not knowing what to do. This was exactly what it needed to be, completely logical with Io being blinded by her longer-term relationship. The way WWE is positioning Io and Rhea's relationship, it does feel like they're headed for the tag team division, at least temporarily, which is certainly not a bad move just to get us through the fall. Real good work from Sky, Ripley, and the Warriors in the background. We're going to talk more about this in a moment, but I loved the way this story started on Monday night.
Well, I mean, we also just talked about one of them potentially being with Stephanie Vaquer for the title as well. But yeah, this was, it's again, like Io was in the middle of doing stuff for a while, and Rhea is as well. They're both interesting. I don't really know where it's going to go. You put them in the tag team division, a tag team division that has Charlotte and Alexa Bliss and could theoretically have Kairi Sane and Asuka. And you're like, holy crap, that is a really, really good women's tag division all of a sudden. So if that is the plan, I think that'd be really cool. But this was a good way to start it. Yeah.
For sure. So we had Ripley against Perez, as mentioned earlier. Commentary really put over Roxanne's rookie year during this match. Ripley dominated early until a Rodriguez distraction allowed Perez to get the upper hand with a cool trap knee breaker on the apron in the corner. She also had a springboard moonsault, tremendous tornado DDT, as fans chanted Rhea Ripley like, "We will rock you," like Rhea Ripley. I thought that was awesome. Rhea blocked a second moonsault attempt, but Roxy took her off the ropes with Hurricanrana, hit a Satomura knee. Ripley caught Perez with her headbutt and folded her over with a razor's edge, but got distracted, accidentally taking Rodriguez out ringside with a sliding dropkick. Rhea then countered a Russian leg sweep into Riptide and got the win. Rodriguez attacked after the bell. Perez saved her from Riptide. Io obliged fan chants, made the save, cleared house. Another no doubter good, probably the best match on Monday Night Raw when you consider that it played into a storyline. Obviously, what Dragon and JD did was phenomenal. Ripley's selling remains seriously underrated. She worked hard, allowing Perez to dominate the match offensively, which is difficult to believe given she's diminutive, not just in general, but especially by comparison. It seemed like this was being booked to give Rhea an excused loss with how much Raquel was involved, but I really didn't mind Ripley beating Perez here. She's far more established and dominant at this juncture in her career, and Roxy is still a rookie on the come-up. But I'll tell you, if this thing had 10 more minutes, we're having a serious conversation about the quality of this match. As I said, though, it was good.
Yep, definitely good. I mean, Rhea was going to win this. I mean, Roxy's very talented and on her way up, but you're in this position to lose to Rhea Ripley, which is fine, which is good. So
Io later checked on Rhea backstage with them joking about staying away from each other, but Io saying she owed her at least from last week and then they could end it. Asuka stormed over to her really angry that she didn't live up to her promise to basically put family over Ripley, specifically because she doesn't trust Rhea over their family. Asuka ranted at her continuously and stormed off as Sky tried to grab her hand. Io then went to Kairi, basically asking for a friendly ear, but Sane apologized and left with Asuka instead. This is such an NXT storyline in like the absolute best way. There's a tenderness in the friendship between Io and Rhea that would be easy to mistake for something else, but it's not only serving them well in the present for this storyline, it's going to be valuable in the future when their friendship ultimately ends and we get around to Ripley getting off the schneid and beating Sky eventually. Plus, this is hardly the first time someone has chosen a hot goth woman over her family. So, Io, I totally get where you're coming from.
I was up all night.
Asuka even went deeper into her lore with Io on her social media over the weekend. She posted a video, which we shared at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky, explaining her senpai senior relationship to Io, who's a junior to her in Japan, saying she did her best to treat her as an equal, despite the fact that that's not the culture. And while they all have their own separate paths, they agreed to be family and get each other's backs in the United States. So seeing her go in a different direction has been disappointing, especially because Asuka didn't treat her as a junior all those years ago. So basically, it's like a guilt trip. This is the type of thorough storytelling we've been begging to get for the women's division. For some reason, WWE, they're like unable to do it when it comes to the main programs on each brand, but it's been doing an excellent job in the middle of the division, especially on Raw and with the tag team champions on SmackDown. I said this last week or 2 weeks ago, 2025 has actually been WWE's most concerted women's storytelling in years, which is obviously refreshing. It just needs to expand to the actual championships, which have been operating in like a strange silo. It's almost like the champions are not allowed to be involved in stories. Another good, I love the direction this is heading with all four of them, especially because it seems like we're finally getting feuds that some of us, at least, have long wanted, specifically Io and Asuka.
If this was AEW, it felt like they were going to kiss.
Right.
Rhea and Io.
That's what I was alluding to. Yes.
No, I know, but because it's been happening sometimes with frequency on AEW, it was almost like kind of a surprise that it didn't happen. But no, this was all good. And in the Asuka stuff, like you said, like I don't know if credit WWE for that or not, but yeah, that is the kind of deeper storytelling and different things you can do in a different way when, you know, the language barrier is kind of there for three of the people in this.
Mm-hmm.
I found it super interesting and intriguing, and it's a great storyline. And that's why they've got this whole thing going on. And so what do you do with Stephanie Vickers in the title? You want to let this really good story kind of
right
have its story beats. That's what I was trying to say earlier. So I like Stephanie Vickers will figure it out, but this is going very well with Rhea and Io and the Kabuki Warriors. And so I get it.
To your point, having three of the four women involved in this with broken English and the storyline not missing a beat despite that's really difficult, especially in WWE, like historically. And you got to give credit where it's due because it's working. It's
basic fundamentals. Like, hey, we are your family, but then maybe your family's not always there for you, and there's somebody else who is.
Right.
And you lean toward them. This is like natural. It's like natural human emotions,
right?
You know, you don't have. It doesn't have to be a promo. It doesn't have to be a story with a great, 10-minute promo in the ring. Just like give us kind of human emotions and the way people feel, and that's how you connect to it.
Yeah, this is a base storyline for so many movies and TV shows that we've seen like over the time, where someone is pulling another person away from what they're used to, whether that's a group of friends, family, whether that person pulling them away is a love interest, whether it's a friend from the dark side of the tracks or, whatever the case might be. So yeah, it's refreshing and it involves people that I'm actively, heavily interested in, all four of them. So it really speaks the Silver King's language and I'm just enjoying it week to week on TV right now. So we had the Styles Balor match. I cannot believe this was made live without any promotion, let alone being on a Raw and not a PLE. Figured it would at least lead to like a Dominic attack, DQ, title match getting made. Instead, this thing was short. 8 minutes. Both guys ran through their signatures. AJ beat Finn with Styles Clash. No further storytelling between them. No match booking for Clash in Paris. Nothing. I was flabbergasted that they threw this match on TV, didn't let them actually work deep against one another, and then just beat Balor, one half of the tag team champions, by the way, squeaky clean, after the other half of the tag team champions lost earlier on the show. The finish was really nice, but to my utter shock, I gotta say bad for a Styles Balor match. You cannot have these two fight unannounced in the shortest bout on a TV show. That is extremely frustrating, and it is counter to pretty much everything I believe about the way these guys should be positioned.
Didn't they fight like a couple of weeks or months ago, and we kind of said the same thing?
Yes, but I think it was announced beforehand, at least before the show.
Yeah, something like that. So like, was the thought process like, oh, over in the UK, they'll be like all gung ho about it? It doesn't matter?
I would assume
they really weren't.
They weren't as crazy as they certainly should have been seeing this match. The last time they fought was May 12th on Raw. The match was pre-announced and it went 17 minutes. This was announced on the show and it went 8.
Just wild. And just really a statement about where both of those guys stand, which is really, really unfortunate.
Or maybe not where they stand, but how WWE thinks of them.
Yes. Well, yes. Yeah. Like, you have 2 tag team wrestler champions wrestling singles matches like on the show. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, why do they have the tag team belts? Like, they've done nothing with it. We loved it when they got that. We liked the possibilities, but it feels like Raquel and Roxanne are the more like important people in Judgment Day right now.
Yeah.
You know, Dom is out and about sometimes. So just very bizarre. I keep thinking the whole AJ Styles thing is like a rib. Like, no, we're doing kind of a jokey thing, but it's going to come back around. But I'm starting to think they just don't really care about this guy, and he's just kind of sitting down low until maybe we do a John Cena thing.
Well,
I don't know.
There's 2 things. So I don't mind halves of tag teams losing matches or winning matches for that matter. I actually think we need more of that in WWE. But because they already beat McDonough on the show, you don't then beat the other half, especially if the people who beat them aren't about to team up to challenge for the titles. You know, it would have been one thing if like he lost to Dragon Lee and then Balor lost to Penta. And for some reason, Dragon and Penta decide, well, hey, you know, we each beat them. We should team up and challenge for the titles. That would at least be something somewhat interesting. This was killing both halves of your tag team champions. Not killing, but beating both halves of your tag team champions with nothing on the back end for either, at least it seems. Maybe something happens with Dragon we're not thinking about, but as of right now, it was just, both those guys lost. And the tag team division in general on Raw is dead. So, like, why are you on top of that beating your champions? It's really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your grade here?
Bad.
Dom backstage asked Pierce to handle the AJ situation once and for all, saying that giving Finn that one match wasn't enough, especially since he cost Mysterio the AAA Mega Championship. Pierce relented, agreeing that Dom is right. This does need to end. So he booked the rematch for the Intercontinental Championship on Raw next week in Paris. Absolutely boggles the mind that this is not on the Clash in Paris card. I do get it. Raw is also in Paris. In theory, the response to Styles from the crowd should be the same, regardless of the show on which it lands.
Yeah.
But sticking Clash with 5 matches and not putting on a PLE, the guy who was more over than anyone else during Backlash in Lyon, it's just frankly ridiculous. Even grading this segment on its own, it was so ho-hum. There was no reason this didn't get integrated with the Styles Balor match, given this is what it came off of. Adam Pearce running out there angry with the microphone, setting up this match. It's far more interesting than, hey, you know, Adam, we're still really pissed about AJ. I want this over. Like, it was just so nothing. So I got to go with another bad here. And I promise you guys, this is weird. I love Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, AJ Styles, Adam Pearce individually, Judgment Day. They get goods every single week. But throughout Raw, this was bad.
I'm going to give it a bad. In terms of this being on the Raw show, like, yes, we've said this a million times. We'd like the pay-per-views to be the biggest thing every month, but instead we always get these shorter, smaller cards. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. And it's a card that's going to have John Cena and Roman Reigns and CM Punk on it. So, like, it's not like there's a shortage of star power on this show. So I get it. But it's, again, what these secondary belts, the IC belt forever, is just, it's the thing you throw on the Raw after or the SmackDown before.
The men's one is because Becky Lynch is fighting at every Premium Live event.
That's true. The men's one forever. Remember, it was like 2 years or something like that.
Yes.
It wasn't defended on a pay-per-view. So like, okay, I get it. But like when you treat the Intercontinental Championship like that, then we as viewers don't treat it as an important thing.
Right.
Because it is constantly not viewed as important by the way it's booked. And we're back to that again, I guess.
They built it up with Gunther, and then Sammy had it, and that it fizzled under him. Braun Breaker fizzled under. Dominic won it back, got a huge reaction at WrestleMania. We're like, wow, they're really going to feature this title again. And now, granted, he was hurt for a while, so that did play. But I mean, they did the match at SummerSlam, and it was one of the worst matches on the entire card. And now you're running it back on television. I mean, you're just not treating this title well. It really is ridiculous. Bayley again heard the voice of the hugger in her head being positive and uplifting about everything she's accomplished, that she's been successful in her career when she believes in herself. Then the role model took the other side, calling the hugger an idiot, saying she helped Bayley reach greater heights, and she even had her own talk show. The real Bayley yelled for both voices to stop, and that's how the third version of this package ended. Lyra Valkyria backstage expressed concern to Pierce, saying WWE should at least be doing a medical check on her or something. I continue to love what they're doing here. It's kind of interesting that Lyra is getting involved out of concern when she had separated herself from Bayley, saying, hey, we don't need to be friends. We don't need to be enemies, but let's just not be together. But this is babyface shit, right? Her kind of coming back and saying, I'm not supposed to care about her anymore, but clearly something's wrong and no one's like giving a shit and like checking on her, right? She would make a really good opponent for Bayley to potentially take aggression out on whenever she ultimately returns. The setup for this for me has been perfect. WWE, they absolutely need to land the plane on this gimmick. It seems like it's a different take on an angel on one shoulder, a devil on the other with the hugger and the role model. But the presentation of this is going to be crucial. For now, 3 weeks in a row, this is good.
Yeah, good. Again, it's just vignettes, so like there's a ceiling on how much of a good this is, but it's interesting. I'm intrigued. They took it a step further by just saying straight up, it's the hugger and it's the COVID era role model, whatever you want to call her, versions of Bayley, and they both made good points. Like Bayley was the hugger was like, look, we won our first championship together. We did all this stuff. The other one says we won 2 championships. So like you kind of see it on both sides. And I do wonder, like, so like it's interesting. I'm intrigued week to week. I'm curious where it goes, but I do wonder, like, do we need to tell the backstory of Bayley for a lot of people who don't remember the NXT run and everything? Because that was 10 years ago, like the other day, was the Becky Sasha match, and WWE's fan base has greatly changed and turned over. A lot of people who were not watching NXT at the time. I just want to make sure like they do kind of inform a lot of people what that is. Because if you don't know Bayley's whole history, you might be a little bit confused.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely touched on it to a decent amount here, but it would be nice if, like, whatever her first feud is, there's a longer package. Or maybe she gets interviewed about it and she goes, yeah, the hugger was this, the role model was this, and now I'm trying to figure it out. But this is the perfect gimmick for her, not only because she can act and actually do a good job with it, but the hugger and the role model, the babyface version of Bayley and the heel version of Bayley, were so desperate across each other. Whereas if you look at like Becky Lynch and you have the Man and Big Time Bex, it's kind of the same character, just one's a babyface and one's a heel, right? It's Becky talking shit and being full of herself and confident in herself. But the hugger and the role model were drastically different characters. And that's why ever since the role model ended and they turned Bayley babyface, even though it worked and she got her pop at the Royal Rumble and her pop at WrestleMania, it didn't really hit home with the crowd because it wasn't the hugger and it wasn't the role model. So now they figured this out and they said, we got to like determine what is Bayley going to be going forward. And it's going to be really interesting. Is she going to be Jekyll and Hyde like they tried but failed to do with Damian Priest? Is it going to be a situation where one or the other takes over at any given time in full? Or is she going to be this individual character who is just a mix, like best of both worlds type of situation? It's going to be really curious. Maybe like closer like what Alexa Bliss is, right? Where she still kind of looks like the Fiend version of Bliss, but she talks like the babyface version of Bliss. Is that what Bayley's going to be? I don't know. But the fact that we're even talking about this as long as we are it's proof that it's working. So good job for WWE there. We had Penta against Kofi Kingston. Despite both guys having made their entrances, WWE ran a promo package and a Judgment Day backstage segment before the bell rang, which was like the Vince McMahon show pacing back in like 2019. I was like, what the hell is going on here? Grayson Waller passed around a petition during the match to get the Mexican Destroyer banned, as Xavier Woods has demanded. Also odd here, both guys were wearing black and white gear. It looked like tag team partners fighting one another. Penta
also in a black and white ring.
In a black and white ring, yeah. Penta took a huge back body drop into the announce table, only to go on a run afterward with all of his signatures. Kofi avoided Mexican Destroyer. Then they botched a head scissors takedown over the ropes, with Penta hitting a really rough version of his finisher, Penta Driver, for a false finish. Kofi kicked out of his finisher. Penta took out Waller ringside, then hit a huge tope to squash New Day. As he looked to finish Kingston, Waller briefly distracted. I think he grabbed his leg, allowing Kofi to trip him off the ropes and hit Trouble in Paradise to win his first singles match by pinfall or submission in, I'm going to leave it open-ended, Chris. How long do you think it has been? Don't cheat. Since Kofi has won a singles match via pinfall or submission.
2 years?
2 effing years. Almost to the day.
Ah! Yes! I love that!
We need more positive sound drops. I mean, I have them, but they're not as good as that one.
How do you like that, huh?
And we got that.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Maybe I could have used that one. But the point is, Kofi Kingston, a singles win over Penta, first in 23 frickin' months. Absolutely loved it, as you can tell. This probably popped me harder than most of you, but even with Grayson's distractions, Kofi in this match kicked out of a finisher, hit his own finisher, and then got the 1-2-3 over one of the most popular wrestlers in the company right now. That is freaking awesome, even if it was a tad depressing to learn via research that a former WWE champion, who held the title for like 6 months, mind you, hadn't been able to beat someone in that long. The story WWE is telling with Penta on his own against these three, it's curious. And Chris, it leads me to believe it might be creating an opening for Rey Fenix and maybe even Andrade to make their way over to Raw, which would obviously fill out the tag team division, even if Raw does not actually need more star power, but they do need star power among tag teams. Either way, as a one-off match and segment, this was definitely good.
Yeah, it was good. Like, it's something, it's something from Kofi and whatever, as much as we've criticized them kind of doing nothing for a while. And weren't Rey Fenix and Andrade conspicuously absent from some sort of tag team thing on SmackDown?
They have not been on SmackDown since the TLC match. Just period. They haven't been on.
So, like, that's something. Honestly, I'd be kind of annoyed at it being a 6-man. I'd rather it just be the Lucha Brothers and New Day and Kofi and Xavier.
Well, there's probably a story they can tell where like they get his back, they do a 6-man, and then they from there break off and do the team and Andrade goes single. That would be my guess.
It would make sense. Although, like, again, Rey Fenix and Andrade, we've enjoyed them in a limited amount of times. Like, they actually have been very good together.
By the way, Chris, not just them, okay? Andrade, Phoenix, and Penta, they've been involved in random tag teams, like, across the board. I think we got Penta and AJ Styles at one point. We got Andrade and someone else. And all of those tag teams were good. Every single one involving these guys.
Yeah.
But yes, so Phoenix and Andrade together were awesome. They were.
You if you're going to do the Lucha Brothers and the New Day, like that's a thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing if we get to that point. So I hope that's what it is.
That's a real thing that you can actually sink your teeth into on Raw and say, this is interesting and something. And Judgment Day being there because they're champions. Then you have Judgment Day against, the Lucha Trio, whatever you want to call them. The question is what happens to LWO on the back end. Where's Dragon Lee fit in? Because he, had that match against McDonough. So there's just a lot of different parts of this. And you definitely don't want to make LWO 12 people, but we'll see what happens on Raw. So far, so good, though, here. Fraxium backstage on SmackDown put over Carmelo Hayes, saying they didn't like how everything went down, but Melo was legitimately great in the match, and Miz is a schemer who stole his thunder. Miz took offense to that, but Hayes got his back, running down all of Miz's accomplishments in history, saying he's smarter than everyone he comes across. Miz was kind of taken aback that Melo fully bought in, and the Wyatt Six stalked from behind as this happened. So he had Motor City Machine Guns against Melo Don't Miz. Melo tagged himself in at the bell. Miz responded in kind a few minutes later as fans loudly chanted for him and preferred the heels in this match. I believe they got a TNA chant. MCMG did. Miz again tagged in as Melo was setting up nothing but net, leading to an argument that saw Hayes get bounced out of the ring in the interim. Melo hit Chris Sabin with first 48. As Alex Shelley got pulled out of the ring, Miz slid in, got the cover, and the 1-2-3. Hayes seemed to acknowledge after the bell that Miz's method was working, even, of course, if it wasn't his preferred way of doing things and he was taking all the glory. The Dublin crowd really raised the rent for this match. It was well wrestled by all four guys. The finish was creative. I'm not a huge fan of MCMG, a veteran team, losing on first 48, which is Melo's setup move and not even named by commentary. And it was a delayed cover on top of that. But it worked. And the storytelling of their relationship, which will inevitably blow up, that's working as well. Definite good for me. Even if it was kind of weird, the crowd did a 180 from last week. But I absolutely hate this like cameraman they're shoving onto the ring apron during matches. It looks like shit. Just use the corner cameras if you want those angles. That was an aside. The segment was good.
Yeah, they really on SmackDown. It felt like SmackDown more than any other thing in a while. They did this ring camera, and I wondered if that was because the arena in Dublin, like even the hard cam looked like different than normal.
It did.
And
I really just think it's something they're doing, but yes, you're right.
I wondered if it was specific to the Dublin arena or whatnot, because the stage was very different on SmackDown as well than it was on Raw. So I don't know. As for this, I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was interesting. It was a solid match. You know, the finish was what it was. And you do the same thing again where Miz tags in and Melo's not happy and Miz gets the win. But to your point, like Miz kind of, Hayes kind of came around in it. But I got a tweet sent to both of us about this. They said, based on what I said last week, respectfully totally disagree with Vintage in regards to Melo being irked with Miz because they won, so what's the problem? Real sports is littered with examples of players butting heads over who's getting the accolades, endorsements, headlines, etc., even if they're winning, end quote. To which I say, yes. And they're usually the villain for that.
They are the villain. That's true.
So like it is real sports in that sense, but that doesn't make you when two people are arguing. So the Cowboys documentary just came out, really good on Netflix. The whole thing of Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones kind of like arguing who deserves credit for the Herschel Walker trade and all this kind of stuff. Nobody comes off looking good for that. It's like, I don't think it's a positive thing. So that's why I'm still kind of annoyed. Like Carmelo should not be upset with Miz for doing this because they keep winning. And guess what? They've got a number one contender match coming up now. It's working. Now, when Miz does it and they cost them and they lose, that's when you get mad about it. And that's when it makes sense.
But that's kind of what happened here. So like the first week he was angry about it because of ego. And this week he was still angry about it. But like when Miz looked out of the ring at him, he like shrugged. He's like, yeah, man, you're right. Like we won.
Right.
Like, so that he is coming around to this. And then what we think would then happen is that Miz does it again. It costs them and then they break up and Miz is the bad guy because of it. But
yes,
you know, again, it's going to require fans to actually buy into Melo and see him as the babyface who's getting screwed. And that when he turns on Miz, that he's justified in doing so. And we don't know how the fans are going to react to that. And that's
right. I just thought him being upset about Miz getting them the win, I did not like that. So the fact that
he wasn't upset about that. He was upset about his glory being stolen.
Well, that's what I mean. And the fact that the second time around, he's becoming accepting of it because it's working. He should be doing that.
Yes.
And I think there's other ways to express that too. Even Melo just be like, hey, you know, like I wasn't sure at first, but you know, if it's working, I'm in on it or something like that. So positive step for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, there's really no harm. Like, even if you think of it in like a work context, if you're like brainstorming with people and you and someone else give ideas and you really believe your idea was great and would have won the pitch meeting or whatever the case, right? But they go with someone else's idea and that wins the pitch meeting, then sure, you're happy that you won the pitch meeting. But at the same time, you're like, but my idea didn't get used. And like I wasn't able to finish the match. They stole the glory from me. It's not an abnormal human feeling to have in that moment. But at some point, you do need to come around, which is what Melo did. And that's why it works.
Yep.
So we're on the same page there. Something that stands out to me as kind of annoying is WWE. They spent all this time establishing the actual teams in the SmackDown tag team division. And now they're all basically being fed to the Wyatt Six. Then you have Andrade and Phoenix, who have not been back on TV since SummerSlam, as we mentioned. And Melo Don't Miz getting like combined together and thrown into the division as well. I just find it hard to understand, even if Andrade and Phoenix are getting moved to Raw, why WWE keeps creating and elevating more teams in a division that is already loaded with teams while you have Raw sitting on the other side with 3 total teams and only 2 that actually make television because the Viking Raiders are completely missing in action. Like, make that make sense to me, Chris, because I'm really struggling here.
And like having Mellow Miz do their thing and get to a matchup with Finn and JD where we think they can win.
Right.
Like it's a storyline match where, oh, they blew it and then the heels won and the heels kind of celebrate and kind of chuckle at the mistakes of the faces. Like, it's a natural, perfect story. I don't know how the heck you tie what Mello and Miz are doing into the frickin' Wyatt Six, which is why, again, they shouldn't be tag team champions because you cannot do wrestling storylines off of them.
That's the one thing I'll disagree with you about, because the whole Wyatt Six gimmick right now is proving like they're a real family and all these other teams are just in it for the glory. That actually fits perfectly with Mello Miz.
Yeah, yes, but like none of those other tag teams are. That's the problem.
Some of them kind of are, others are not. The Street Profits, they are trying to wedge drive them by saying so. But yes, MCMG, DIY, the other teams are not. That's true.
Right.
That's true. Jimmy Uso backstage addressed Naomi's pregnancy, saying he's feeling the love from everyone, including Sami Zayn, who ran into the picture for a huge hug, saying he's always got another uncle if he wants one. Solo Sikoa and MFT came in, saying the new baby is welcome in his family and can even be named after him. Sami basically told him, worry about holding on to the title because he's the guy fighting for the strap, and he's a former WrestleMania main eventer. I'm giving this one a good because the baby angle allowed it to feel a little bit fresh. If that wasn't part of it, it probably would have been bad for the repetition. But Solo coming in and talking to his older brother and being like, yo, the baby should be in my family and he should have my name. Like, that did pop me. I thought that was pretty smart.
Yeah, it was funny. It was good. Did you see the picture of Sami Zayn and Pac at the Newcastle soccer game?
I did, yes, in the crowd. Very
funny. Pac is just like pointing stuff out, and Sami's got this kind of dopey smile on his face.
Let me ask you
a
question.
Funny.
Tough
for Newcastle, by the way. They gave up a goal in the 100th minute and lost to Liverpool. Did not like that.
Let me ask you this. We respectfully, of course, talk about, the women and how they look sometimes, their hair, their gear choice, whatever the case. We talk about men too. But we're never that critical about dudes outside of like Sheamus when he came back kind of pudgy. Do you think Sami Zayn just needs to like legitimately cut his hair and trim his beard? It's like a manageable, like clean-ish length, because I don't know, man. I really struggle to look at him as anything other than like kind of dopey, like what you're saying. I think he's almost trying to do a Mick Foley, but he's so unkempt that I don't know. I don't take him as seriously as I think I should be, especially if they are going to make a legitimate run with him as world champion.
I don't disagree. It looks much better in the ring.
He looks like a cartoon character. Backstage.
When he's I think he looks much better in the ring than when he's dressed. When he dresses up normally, like when I talked to him at the Big 12 Championship last year, you see him out and about, he does not look like a pro wrestler at all.
Right, like when he's in a hoodie and just like baggy pants and shit.
Yeah, like I would even say it looked, Daniel Bryan pulled it off better, even with the big beard.
Much better.
Maybe because he was shorter, but also a little bit stockier than Sami. It's, if you think, is this the face of your world champion? Not long term, no. But you got to lean into that. The whole thing with Daniel Bryan was he doesn't look like the champion.
Right.
Like, we've never said that about Sami Zayn. No one's ever said you're too small, you're this or that. So if we get to this eventual Sami Zayn push, I do think that has to be addressed at some point, at least as the character.
At a minimum, he just needs to bring it back to, remember he was wearing like army green and he had the hat on, like the Che Guevara
which he
hat.
wears in real life. That's what he wore to the football game.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm just saying, like, he had his hair like pulled back though, and a little slicker, and the beard was shorter. He looks like the Habs mascot, the Montreal Canadiens mascot. He looks like a puppet, not a cartoon character. He looks like a Muppet, and I don't know, like that's not a guy. I forget about believability as world champion. It's just not a guy I take seriously on my screen. I'm like, if he's going to be a serious character, I just think he needs to. I'm not saying he needs to change his look. Just trim it, clean yourself up a little bit, like be a little bit more serious, because he looks like a dude who just like doesn't care in many ways, and that doesn't play in professional wrestling, at least as far as I'm concerned.
It's always worth leaning into that for the story, like they did it with Mick Foley.
Oh yeah,
said they should have done when Otis won Money in the Bank. They should have had Miz try to like make him dress nice and do all this stuff. Like, and they
Yes.
never did any of that. Like, if you're going to get somebody into the world title picture who doesn't look like a typical wrestling champion, you have to address that. And you have to, even if it's the heel addressing it, you have to kind of acknowledge.
Yeah, I'm not saying he needs to go back to like NXT Sammy, clean shaven and short hair. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying clean it up. That's all I'm saying. Trim, get tighter. Anyway, let's move on. Street Profits against JC Mateo and Tonga Loa. It was nice to hear a crowd not only react to the Profits properly, but also Mateo, who got a nice pop for his impressive standing moonsault. Unfortunately, he got another chant later in the match. Angelo Dawkins got his typically great hot tag before MFT distracted with Montez Ford on the top rope. Tala Tonga pulled him down, allowing Mateo to hit a twisting back suplex accidentally called Tour of the Islands, which it was not.
No.
Jimmy attacked Tala out of the crowd with a steel chair, but got taken over the barricade into the crowd, with Tala still working like Kane for some reason. Sammy then tripped Solo standing on the announce table, hit him with a haluva kick. Ford capitalized with a tope and a picture-perfect frog splash for the win. When this was initially booked, even with it being lower members of MFT, I was worried that the Profits were going to lose. I'm glad they got the dub, even happier that the crowd reacted to them the way it did. There was again a level of inconsistency with the Six not being interested in what was happening here, despite the stalking angle continuing to be run across the rest of the show. Mateo may have gotten his best overall showing. He definitely fed off the crowd energy a little bit, except they chanted, "You can't wrestle" at him at one point, which got cut off from the American broadcast. I will remind, Jeff Cobb was literally an Olympian. Now, WWE has done him a serious disservice. The way he's being booked as a reduced talent jobber in MFT, the guy can really go if he's being given an actual opportunity, and they're not giving him opportunities. But look, it seems like now we have a number one contendership set for next week with the Profits and Mello Don't Miz. That's a positive step in a direction for the tag team division. Ultimately, I'm going to give this a surprising good.
Yeah, good match. Correct winners. Enjoyed it. It's a good. Other than the crowd chanting "You can't wrestle," which was an insane thing to chant.
Right.
At JC Mateo. What are you talking about?
You want to chant that at Tongaloa, go ahead. Not JC Mateo. You know?
Yeah, like what are you talking about?
Yeah. Couple more left here. Kiana James, not just wearing a lingerie top, but a see-through lingerie top at that, told Julia that she's had several negotiations currently in motion. Michin came up demanding a match, again saying Kiana was ignoring her. James basically put herself in the way physically, so they'll have an entree match before Michin presumably gets a title match against Julia. Nikki Cross stalked these three in the background, which was really repetitive, uninteresting. Michin may wind up winning her way to the match, but James isn't anything right now. She literally just came back, hasn't wrestled yet. I'm not sure what beating her means, but my criticism last week was that Michin is here just demanding a title match without deserving it at all. So beating her would at least allow her to somewhat deserve it, more so than not beating anyone. Despite that, this remains bad.
Yeah, at least it was a little bit there. Again, I don't understand why you are dressing that way if you are the manager for another wrestler. Like if you were the valet for a man, like the way they used to dress back in the day, like Sable or Sonny or something like that. But
or
like,
Scarlett even these days, you know?
Yeah, Scarlett. Like it's just weird. It doesn't make sense. Like, are you the most important person here? Because that's how you're dressed.
It's not professional, you know? Like, she's trying to be akin to a general manager. Those guys are in suits, and they're really put together, and she's just out there. Like, look, we're not hating on it. Like, she looks great. And it's fantastic that she gets to be on our TV like that.
They look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
But for the role that she's playing, it doesn't fit.
That's all.
That's it. R-Truth against Aleister Black. This was scheduled for the show with Black in the ring, waiting for Truth. He appeared on the big screen in a video from a plane saying he accidentally flew into Dublin, Georgia, but he said he called a good friend to fill in for him. Damian Priest returned 3 weeks removed from the steel chair takeout. He threw Black clean over the top rope of the ringside area. A dozen officials tried but failed to separate them as they kept brawling into the backstage. I'm right on the edge on this one. The brawl itself was fine. The crowd was clearly into it. But we are literally seeing a near identical storyline on Raw with Sheamus and Rusev. And on top of that, we didn't even get the Truth match. So, like, what are they doing with this guy? Every time it's a step forward, it feels like it's 2 steps back. 3 weeks was enough time for Priest to be away. So at least they didn't bring him back after 1 week like they've done so many other times. But I sure as shit would have liked it if they just waited until after Europe. I'm 50-50 here. I'm going to say a light good. They moved it forward. The brawl was solid. The segment itself was entertaining. But man, it's frustrating.
Like, so like he filmed that video from a plane. Do we think he actually just had travel problems, or like the flight got delayed, he wasn't going to get there in time, or like, I don't know. That was weird.
I mean, they fly enough. He may have flown it the week before. I don't believe he had travel problems.
I don't know. Dublin, Georgia. To me, that is not the second most popular Dublin in America. Do you know when I say Dublin in America? Ohio.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where Urban Meyer's from.
Yes.
That's where a lot of NFL players come from. So it's like Dublin, Georgia. Like maybe that's a thing for you're in the South, I guess, but maybe that's something for people in Georgia. I don't know.
So this is what I will tell you. I know of Dublin, Georgia. The only reason I know of Dublin, Georgia is because it's smack dab in the middle in this like triangle between Atlanta, Augusta, and Savannah. So when I drive to Savannah, I never pass it. But when I go to Augusta or Atlanta occasionally, you'll see it on the road signs of turn off here for Dublin. But it's like Macon, Atlanta, Augusta, Savannah, all kind of around Dublin, which is right in the middle of like South Georgia. So I know it because I drive there, but I would never know it otherwise.
Yeah. My thought went to Ohio, but I'm from Michigan. So that's that. I'm very 50-50 on this. Like maybe R-Truth, Aleister Black was going to be good and we were going to get the Ron Killings and it was going to be the step forward with that character. Or maybe it wasn't, in which case we're just going to skip it and go to the actually more important Damian Priest bit, in which case that may ultimately be a good. This whole thing has been a mess for weeks. I don't really know what the plan is. I don't know if they know what the plan is. I'll give it a light good on accident. There was more intensity in this than a lot of other things over the weekend that should have had some.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, so that takes us out of the good, the bad, and the ugly into our WWE Clash in Paris Ultimate Preview. This, Chris, is a 5-match card as of now. I could definitely see it expanding by 1. Probably that would be the maximum. What is weird here is that outside of John Cena and Logan Paul, the rest of these matches are all from Raw, which makes me wonder, like, what the hell's going on SmackDown? But we've been talking exactly about what has been going on SmackDown. But I don't get this for an international show in front of incredible crowds. Why are you going 5 matches? Again, maybe it's 6, but as of right now, it really does seem like it's going to be 5. I get going 5 for a B show in the United States. Like Backlash in Salt Lake City, cool. You want to do 5 matches? I understand. I'm not saying I like it, but I understand. Clash in Paris, Crown Jewel, some of these shows, these should at least be 6, if not 7 match cards.
So this stadium that it's in, it's somewhere between 30 to 45,000 capacity, it seems. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's not necessarily an arena. It's called an arena, but it's kind of a stadium show.
Right.
But not fully a stadium show. And if it is a full stadium show, maybe you're adding another match onto there. But this is just what they do. So I get, look, you got Becky Lynch, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Cena all in separate matches. So, there's plenty of star power here.
That's the thing. Sorry to interrupt you. That's the thing I don't understand. I've seen a lot of criticism of this show that WWE's mailing it in. They're throwing shit out there. They're not respecting fans in France. And I'm looking at this card and I don't get that. Now look, Sheamus and Rusev, which will be the match that we start off with, the good old-fashioned Donnybrook, that is a TV match. We all know it's a TV match. But they're 2 European dudes that are being featured on this card because they're European, right? And we definitely wanted AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio on here instead of this. But again, I understand why it's on here. Becky Lynch and Nikki Bella is one of your top women in the company, who used to be the top woman in the company, against a Hall of Famer who is one of the most popular, most well-known women in WWE. Then you have a Roman Reigns singles match, which, guess what, folks? He's had one of those since WrestleMania 40.
Yeah.
One. And you're getting it in Paris against Bronson Reed, which is, for me, exciting. I'm interested. You have a World Heavyweight Championship match that not only has Seth Rollins as your champion, but the 3 biggest baby faces on Raw right now, all challenging for the title. And then, okay, you don't like Logan Paul. I don't like him either. Fine. But you have a John Cena match on the card. So I do not understand. You could maybe not love the card, or if you're personally, individually not interested in it, I'm not going to argue with that. To each their own. But to suggest that WWE is screwing over the French fans and mailing in this card and not putting their best foot forward, I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, that I've seen that talk too, and I don't understand that. You compare this to a lot of these other 5-match cards over the last 2 years in terms of star power.
It kicks the shit out of them.
Absolutely up there. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't get that. As for the rest of it, I hate the name Clash in Paris.
Agree.
Every time it's said on television, it sounds like they're saying Clash, comma, in Paris. It's like, I'll see you at the Clash in Paris. Like that, because it's not alliteration. Clash at the Castle, it sounds like an event. Bash at Berlin sounds like an event. Clash in Paris does not sound like an event. It sounds like it's a clash in Paris. And so I don't like the name. I get the continuation, but I don't like the name. However, I love the poster and the graphics and the art for the show. They're doing the Starry Night thing, the painting there. I think it's so creative and unique and different from 95% of wrestling posters. I really think we haven't talked about that on the show really. I think that's been really cool and well done.
By the way, 2 things on this. Number 1, I was Googling like thesaurus words for Clash because I was going to think like, what kind of alliteration could we do with Paris? There isn't a P word that fits, so we can't.
Punch out in Paris.
Something maybe. But what's funny is one of the synonyms for it is Donnybrook. And I just thought that was really funny that it shows that Donnybrook is there as synonym. So it's funny that you made that comment about the art for this show. I don't know if you're aware of this. This is, again, something else that people hate. And they're angry about it. WWE doesn't understand French art. They don't understand anything. It's all shit. It's all AI, all this stuff. So the argument, this show's going long, but who cares? Okay. The argument here, because this is going to be fresh to you since you haven't heard it. I want to get your take.
Okay.
Is that Starry Night is not picturing Paris. It was not drawn or painted of Paris, but the south of France, which is true. Okay. And the artist, Vincent van Gogh, of course, is Dutch. And therefore, because this was a painting that he made out of like an asylum window depicting the south of France, and because he's Dutch, WWE should not be using it for a show called Clash in Paris. Your thoughts?
I think that's dumb. If you want to say it's called Paris and the painting is not Paris, that I can actually buy. You know, if they had called this the Frolic in France or something like that.
Frolic in France.
Okay, whatever. Like, I'll accept that criticism. The rest of it, no. What are you talking? Because Van Gogh was Dutch. He was in France. The Mona Lisa is in France. I went and saw it a couple of weeks ago. It's in the Louvre. It's associated with France. It was painted by Da Vinci, who is Italian.
Correct.
And it was stolen by Italians who felt it should be in Italy. So, like, I don't... I think
it's at the Louvre, right?
Yes, it's at the Louvre.
Right, but you're not going to do the Mona Lisa for this because it's Italian.
I would have been fine if it was the Mona Lisa too, I'm saying.
Oh, you would have been fine with that.
Yeah, so I'm saying like, but that's associated with France and it's Italian. So should we not associate the Mona Lisa with France at all?
I mean,
like,
the truth is that if they wanted to do art, they probably should have done the Louvre, like because that looks great, you know, with the glass structure and the whole deal. Like maybe that's what they could have done. But here's the thing about Starry Night, and look, I'm not a art historian or anything like that, okay? But the reason why Starry Night became famous, can anyone guess without the Silver King saying it? Why Starry Night became famous?
I do not know.
It's because it was owned and displayed by famous, at the time, art dealers and patrons in Paris. Because it was painted in France, it rose to fame in Paris. Then it went to the Netherlands, I believe, because he was Dutch. And I don't know where it is now.
It looks like it's in New York.
Oh, it's in New York.
It's been in
that's right.
At the Museum of Modern Art.
It is. It's in MoMA, right? And now it's in New York. Okay, so this is what happens with art. Many pieces of art over their life cycle travel the world. They become famous in one area. They get put up in gallery at another area, and so on. And if I'm using any wrong terms, and there's any people on here that know art, then feel free to correct the Silver King. It's fine. But Starry Night originally became famous in Paris. And there was also a Woody Allen movie. I can't even believe I'm using his name on this show. That's about Paris. I'm forgetting. Midnight in Paris, I think, is the name of the film. The poster for the film, guess what it uses, Chris? Starry Night. So this is not WWE being stupid or not understanding where they are or any of that type of shit. People associate Starry Night with France as a whole. Paris is the capital of France, and WWE is using it on its posters and graphics for a show in France. That's it.
So Midnight in Paris, I looked up the movie poster, 2011. That has to be, I mean, it's Clash in Paris, Midnight in Paris, Starry Night. Like that's the greatest connection of anything you could make right there.
Yeah.
So no, and whether or not, like, even aside from that, but like, you have to admit the graphic, the art, the graphics have looked very cool.
I think they look cool.
Different.
People say they're clearly AI and shitty. I don't think that. I mean, maybe they are, but like, I don't know what looks good.
Yeah, I'm not going to accuse something of being AI or not. It's not like the one they did the AI for El Grande Americano,
Right,
but
where
that
it's
was
obvious.
that was like part of the joke.
It was.
Like that was the whole thing. Like WWE historically has always done very, very good graphics. Like the idea that suddenly this one has to be AI, I'm not going to buy that without any proof.
I can't believe we spent 5 minutes talking about the damn poster, but I don't look. Everything these days,
like if I'm Roman Reigns, I'm framing this poster and putting it up in
that
my house.
poster of him. If you take the text off of it, that's a great thing to have in your house. If you're him,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I get to put it on a canvas and framed. I completely agree. It seems like there's just been this turn now in the IWC, whatever, where like everything WWE does is now bad. Every single thing. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter the context. Someone was posting how this show isn't close to selling out. At my check, when I saw that, they had 1,700 seats out for however many setup, 20, 30,000, whatever the number is. Now, maybe they don't sell as many tickets as they possibly could. Maybe they don't sell out the entire arena, every single seat. But whatever their setup was, they had 1,700 seats available. And that was with 9 days to go. SummerSlam was selling 1,000 tickets a day going into SummerSlam. I'm guessing they're going to sell it out or come pretty close. Why is that a negative even if they don't? If they come shy of the sellout, but they sell 19,000 tickets, is that a failure? Like, this is the shit I don't understand.
And given how crazy expensive the tickets were priced,
right,
for the Lyon show, maybe WWE is just simply overcharging, and that will cause them to eventually lower ticket prices.
They definitely are overcharging. There's no question about that. But for them, if they can sell 18,000 tickets at, let's just make believe, 1,000 franc average. I don't know what the conversion is. I'm literally giving you bullshit numbers, right?
They do euros in France,
fine,
not francs.
At €1,000 average, let's make believe, they would rather do that than sell 22,000 tickets at a €400 average. They make more money that way. Yeah. I'm not saying it's great. We want as many fans in every single show as possible, but that's how it goes.
It's same way we'll credit AEW for setting the attendance record for the O2 Arena and in the Wembley crowd that they had the first time around. Like, that's all good. Like, it's the tribalism stuff that we always hate on the show. And I understand, with the moves that WWE is making with the day of WrestlePalooza and
absolutely
and TNA dates and stuff like that. There's concern, WWE going after AEW and what that means. Totally legitimate concern that we don't like. That doesn't mean I can't like the poster.
Yeah, let's criticize WWE and AEW for things that deserve criticism and not just make up bullshit to go at these companies about it. There's enough. Yeah. I promise you there's enough there for both of them for legitimate criticism. You hear it here on the podcast. That's pretty much it. All right, look, we got way off track. We have 5 matches on this WWE Clash in Paris Ultimate Preview. We're going to be covering all of them starting right now. Low card, main event. Of course, we will have your WWE Clash in Paris instant analysis Sunday afternoon as soon as this show goes off the air. So the low card match, Sheamus against Rusev, good old fashioned Donnybrook. Rusev got a promo package saying he was built as a super athlete, but now he's realized it's impossible to be good when he's destined to be great. Same old Rusev stuff. Well-composed promo, all things considering. Sheamus later got a similar promo package saying Rusev has won his respect back. Sheamus dragged it out of him. And since he's made Rusev relevant again, he wants his absolute best. Sheamus's promo was 10 times as strong as that of Rusev, which really isn't that much of a surprise. Real passion and anger and energy behind it. This match, as you all know, it should absolutely, positively be a
Banger.
After all, when you have Sheamus and Rusev going head-to-head,
Oh, we got two big meaty men bumping me tonight.
and really there was not much else that they could have done on Raw to build it because we've already seen them fight and do pull-apart brawls, and we did not need an in-ring promo segment or anything like that between them. So, Chris, I think the build has been solid. I understand why it's on this show. Either of them could win. Like, it legitimately could go either way. But despite Rusev being relatively new returning to WWE, there's a much longer runway with Sheamus being successful here. So I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, this is tough. It might be the toughest match to pick. I've loved what these guys have been doing. This is hard. You picked Sheamus, you said?
Yeah, I mean, I really 55-45 on it, though.
Yeah, I'll go Rusev just to be different. I think Sheamus can take a loss and be totally fine. Give something to Rusev. Maybe he's starting to build something here.
I mean, Rusev definitely needs it more.
Yeah.
And Sheamus could rebound from it easier. There's no question about that. Intercontinental Championship, Becky Lynch defending against Nikki Bella. This was announced on Raw. Lynch hit the ring, informing fans that she had her first WWE tryout ever in Birmingham, which was a dump then and a dump now, just like Bella. Then she got some football cheap heat, of course.
Well, they're really bad guys now because they cut down the city sports team. That's what you do when you're a bad guy.
Nikki called Bex a little bitch, saying she shouldn't have a problem defending the title if she wasn't one. Lynch shot back, calling her broke neck Barbie, saying that she may have paved the way, but her twin sister was better. Blatantly false.
Yes.
And Beck's goal was not to meet her level, but exceed it. Nikki reminded that Becky used to be Charlotte's sidekick, and now she acts desperate like the man has lost her balls. Becky was like, I have balls twice, which was very funny. Then she had a great line about the English still oppressing the Irish 800 years later when they booed her. I thought that was great. Bella said she doesn't have any class, she's cheap, and she's another C word. Coward. Becky said that was way worse than the other C word that she was expecting. She'll give her the match in Paris, not Birmingham, because the only good thing that ever came out of there, Ozzy Osbourne, died a month ago. But even he was smart enough to move to a real city, Los Angeles. Nikki again got the majority of the offense in their tussle, but Becky ran away relatively unscathed to end it. Now, we will pause on the Ozzy Osbourne bit. We'll come back to that after our takes on this segment. But this was a massive step down, not only from last week, but Becky's promo on Friday in Dublin. Not a surprise, because either of those segments would have been extremely difficult to meet or exceed. But it was blatantly obvious that Lynch was purposefully somewhat muzzled here. That way Bella could get in better lines and gain some heat back after she basically eviscerated her on the mic last week. And that's fine. You don't want the build to a title match to be completely one-sided. But everything she said, Nikki, was so scripted and so forced compared to Becky, who is such a natural on the mic that even if her lines were planned, they sound like they're off the cuff. I'm not suggesting this was a poor segment by any means. It was hot. Becky still had great lines. It was just immensely try-hard on Nikki's part. The best parts were Becky taking shots at Birmingham and England. She absolutely nailed them time and again.
Yeah, I agree. It felt like Becky went more at the crowd than she did at Nikki. And that's the job of the bad guy. The bad guy cannot just always get the upper hand. You have to kind of step back and set the table and let the babyface get some promo on you. Like, that's just how it should work. Like, yes, it'd be cool if Becky just dropped bombs on her every week, but then it's like, okay, well, I don't really care about the match, and what are you really doing at that point? So I still thought it was good. I thought her healing we'll talk about the Ozzy Osbourne thing, but I thought her healing with the crowd was particularly good. The English line, keeping out the Irish, like, it was a lot there.
Yeah.
And Nikki was fine, and it was this was good. It was solid.
So coming out of this segment, the next morning here in the United States, Kelly Osbourne, Ozzy's daughter, who was on the Osbourne show famously, she was really angry about this Even though, I'll repeat here, Becky did not insult Ozzy. She insulted Birmingham, which was ironic too, because Ozzy famously moved back to England the second his kids grew up and moved out of the house. He wanted to get out of LA. So nothing she was saying was real at all. And I get that Lynch bringing up his death so soon after he actually died for a wrestling angle that might be off-putting to some, just bringing it up. But there was a massive misunderstanding about what she said. Becky, this whole European trip, has been doing top-tier heel work, and she's frankly been hysterical at the times. When I heard that line, I said, wow, I'm surprised she mentioned him. But that was the only bit that even pushed me to the side a little bit. I didn't think twice about what she said or the way she said it. It was clear that she was saying, Ozzy is great. He's the best of you lot. But even he realized Birmingham is a piece of shit place. That's all she said.
Yes. So what Kelly Osbourne said, she said on, I think, Instagram story, she said, Becky Lynch, you are a disrespectful dirtbag. Birmingham would not piss on you if you were on fire. # Birmingham forever. Shame on the WWE for allowing such things to be said about my father and his home. Is Ozzy in the WWE Hall of Fame? Yeah.
I thought he was.
2021 he went in. Yeah, 2021 he went in. So part of me wondered if any of that was a work from Kelly Osbourne. Maybe. Maybe it's just the Unreal era we're in. I thought it was a great line, and it got a big reaction from the crowd. And me on my couch went, "Oof, that was a tough one." So, ultimately, it's fine. She didn't insult him. Or anything like that. If Kelly's upset, that's unfortunate and too bad. But
she's allowed to be sensitive. Her father died.
Correct.
She's allowed to feel however she wants, but it's just not reality of what she said.
And it's, one day later, nobody cares. It's fine. She'll move on. So I'm fine with people pushing the envelope a little bit.
Absolutely.
As long as you're not really causing, physical and actual harm. And this was it was a line. A lot of people said a lot of bad things about Ozzy Osbourne, when he died too. So it's not like that's the only
I mean, her contention was literally, he's the best thing about this place. He's the best of all of you. And even he didn't want to stay here.
And you guys need to feel bad because he's dead and now you have nothing.
Right. And he left you because that's how much it sucks here in Birmingham. She was just shitting on the local audience. So, again, I'm not telling her how to feel. Her father died. You can feel sensitive, whatever. But she worked herself into a shoot. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Now, look, in terms of the match, Nikki is obviously not the caliber of wrestler of, let's say, Trish Stratus. But seeing what Becky did in their series of matches, I actually have high hopes that Lynch and Bella will be able to put on something extremely strong in Paris. There's no doubt Becky's going to do whatever she can to help her. That's for sure. At the end of the day, you do not have Becky do a long run with the Women's Intercontinental Championship and drop it to Nikki Bella. You have to put someone over at the end of this. Even if it's Bayley, I'd be okay with it. But you got to put over a full-time active superstar at a minimum. Ideally, a full-time active superstar who's a bit younger. So I have Becky Lynch retaining the title here.
I mean, I don't even think she has to put somebody new or younger over, but it's not going to be Nikki Bella.
Right.
There's no need. It doesn't help Nikki Bella. There's not that much of a story there. I'm more interested in this over the last couple of weeks than I thought I would have been otherwise. I think both of them have done a pretty good job. And remember, the Liv Morgan injury of it all kind of, stunted some things too.
Absolutely.
So I think everybody here has done a good job. I think it'll be a good match. I think Nikki, even in her age, has always been better than people give her credit for. But ultimately, Becky gets the win.
That's the crazy thing. So Raw lost Liv Morgan to injury and Naomi to pregnancy, both unexpected, yet the women's booking is still better than SmackDown.
Yeah.
And they did lose Bianca, I'll repeat, but still, that's all they lost. And it's pretty crazy. Let's move to Roman Reigns against Bronson Reed. Now, this we have plenty to talk about from Raw, as we alluded to hours ago here on the show. Reigns opened Raw getting twice serenaded loudly, including a new one, "If you love Roman Reigns, stand up." Roman said he had big plans for the present and future. And while the fans sound the same acknowledging him, there's something he needs to acknowledge. It's what Cody predicted long ago, and the vision has followed through in ensuring. At this point, the promo completely went off the rails because the fans kept chanting, preventing Reigns from getting out his full thought. He was trying to explain how he's changed, but they chanted that he hasn't changed. Then he was trying to relate what Rhodes said in storyline, but they chanted F you, Cody. Why? I have no earthly idea. So Roman said he felt that way for a long time, but Cody was right. He doesn't have the bloodline anymore. He expressed pride for Jey Uso individually, saying he should be contending for the title even if Reigns would be going for it eventually. And then Reigns continued, finally getting back to his point, saying the titles and his wise man are gone, so they need to find more things to take from him. That's when Paul Heyman interrupted, getting STFU chants, saying it's been 5 years since he left Brock Lesnar for Reigns, creating the bloodline, changing the industry. Heyman said he still loves him, but he's there to disrespect him because Roman is missing the tough love that he needs. He may not be man enough to beat that into him, Paul, but Bronson is the guy to do it. Reed said their match isn't about receipts, but disrespect, whereas Reigns' Samoan tribe was civilized, his was exiled to Australia. His tribal tattoos were earned, not paid for, like the ones on Roman's body. Bronson also had a really good line saying he's the same Samoan as his ancestors, the type his parents warned him about. Reigns said he didn't even realize he was Samoan, but if so, his ask belongs to him. He should come down and acknowledge him. They met in the middle of the ramp, brawled into the ring, where they briefly got pulled apart before Reed squashed a pile of security along with Reigns. He had a senton, but Tsunami got delayed long enough for a Reigns Superman punch and a leaping splash off the steel steps. Much later in the show, Roman attacked Bronson backstage, but it was relatively brief. This segment, as far as I'm concerned, was A+ creative and like B+ execution, due almost entirely to the crowd, which completely knocked Reigns off course and derailed the entire segment. Fans have been bothered for a year now that Roman is getting cheered as a face, despite never actually turning face. Yet when he is finally in the ring on his own with an open mic to do the face turn, these Birmingham fans were more focused on getting themselves over than letting the character progress as we have wanted for 12 months. The entire point of this was for Reigns to show that Rhodes was right. His family would leave him one by one until nothing was left. Heyman would become an advocate for someone else, and he'd ultimately become a man without a family, a Roman with no more reigns, and a chief without a tribe. He even went so far as to go out and support Jey specifically. Perfect parallel storytelling given Roman's current position, all thrown into chaos because the crowd was focused on getting itself over as opposed to letting the thing that they had been waiting to hear happen. The only other gripe I had was Reed. He kept the microphone a little bit too far away from his mouth at the start. In front of a hot crowd, you got to be loud with bass in your voice, right up to your mouth. He did well enough in the finish to get his point across, but I did believe it could have been a little bit stronger with the Samoan point, especially. That was a really good angle for them to take. I'm a vicious, ruthless Samoan. You're one that's in the lap of luxury that, got this way because of your family. That was such a good angle, and it didn't really come across. So like I said, this was really well put together. It's exactly what we've wanted all this time from Reigns, but it just wasn't executed like it should have been, largely due to the crowd and to the point that you made earlier, partially due to Roman not silencing the crowd.
So your last point there, what Bronson Reed said to me, I thought was fascinating, intriguing, super interesting. The whole, your people exiled my people to Australia. That's like Black Panther, like Aquaman. That's you could go so deep on that lore right there. And to get that line kind of at the end of a promo at the go home, I was like, man, I would love to go so much deeper into this. I would love the history of his people.
Absolutely.
Give me a video package about Bronson Reed's family. And, while your people were doing this and this, we had to come back from nothing. That's classic, comic book villain type of stuff right there. I was like, whoa, I want to know more about this. It was such an interesting angle and thought, because I had the same thought too. I was like, he is Samoan, but he's Australian. I'm curious how that worked. And I don't know if that's the truth or not from Bronson Reed, but whether or not it is,
it doesn't matter. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. That's super, super interesting. My tattoos were earned. Yours were paid for. Whoa, tell me about that.
Yeah.
Man, that was incredible. I loved that. I would have. I just wish we had more time to get into it. I thought that was awesome.
They crushed this. Do you agree with me though that like the fans actively hampered this? From if this was on a Raw in, let's say, Brooklyn, it would have been a killer segment.
Like, yes, but Roman promos on his own have never really been the thing that like stand out about him or the thing we remember. We remember him cutting, we remember things he said cutting a promo toward people or toward the camera with people behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it's just him, he hasn't been doing a real like serious type of bit in a while. And so I don't know if people just kind of, I don't think people recognized, oh, this is Roman trying to do the full on face turn that he hadn't exactly done since WrestleMania 40. You know, there were bits and pieces along the way, but this, I don't think people expected this to be the time we were going to like clearly lay that all out.
That's fair, but he was, and
no, I know.
And anyone with eyes and ears that was watching this said, "Oh wow, he's doing it right now!" Like it was happening.
I was like, oh wait, are we doing something with Roman here? Because I was not expecting much. I was expecting him to just come out. I'm gonna smash you. You know, I'm gonna get. You think you can do this? I'm the tribal chief. I'm blah blah. But then that's what I thought, because that's just what he normally does when it's him by himself. And you know, if he had been talking one-on-one with Cody, maybe, and is saying these things, I think maybe the crowd would have been kind of more engaged. But when it's a singular promo out, it's rare that like a singular promo in WWE goes like that kind of character deep.
Right.
And we thought he would just say stuff about Bronson or whatever. So I think they weren't expecting it, but I do blame the crowd for what they did. But I also blame Roman as well, because several minutes there before we kind of started going.
Yeah. As soon as the Cody thing happened, where they booed him or said F you Cody or whatever it was, he should have said like, hold on a second. Like I used to feel that way too, but what I have to say here is really important.
Yeah.
And then if he said that, the rest of it would have gone fine. And instead he didn't. He let the crowd kind of dominate the segment, and everyone else was worse off for it. But again, I loved what he was out there to say, even though he didn't really get to say it. And I loved the angle for Bronson to build to this match. And it just didn't hit as hard as it otherwise would have.
Like, I want that to be Bronson's character moving forward. Like, we'll get into the pick here, but like,
yeah,
I hear that, and I don't want to hear about him and Seth Rollins anymore. I want his story. I want his whole backstory as a character, which we've never really gotten.
Yeah.
He's kind of just been a heavy. That opened the door to so much like character development.
And there's so much, because he, you know, you start with the family and how the heritage, even if it's fake, and how they got exiled to Australia and everything that happened there. He works his whole life. He finally gets into WWE. He gets fired. He goes to Japan, proves himself, gets hired back by WWE, makes an impact with Seth Rollins, does the whole thing at War Games, gets injured, another derailment of his career. He has a great story, both in kayfabe and reality.
It's Killmonger from Black
It kind
Panther.
of is Killmonger-ish. Yeah. It works. So yeah, they really should build him. And also, you know, we've said this before. I just don't want to forget. He and Braun Breaker should be tag team champions on Raw. Like,
yes.
What are we waiting? What are we waiting for? Is the Vision trying to dominate this company or not? Because if they are, then they should be champions.
So, because not all of Judgment Day, like as soon as Judgment Day lost the women's tag team belts, if you weren't going to do anything with Finn and JD, take the men's tag team, because the whole we have all the gold.
Right.
Once Liv got hurt, that we were kind of off by then.
I could see the titles coming off of them soon too, because I mean, we didn't preview AJ and Dom, but that's going to happen on Raw, and we don't really have a way to talk about that. I would assume AJ is going to win the title in that match. So if AJ wins the title there, you have the tag team lose, all of a sudden Judgment Day win from all the gold to no gold, and you can tell a story with that as well. So you got to have Bronson and Braun win these titles, like, I don't know, by October at the latest. It really should be like next week, honestly.
Yeah.
All right, in terms of a prediction for this match, look, I could make a case up and down why Bronson Reed should win here. He would benefit from beating Roman Reigns so much. The group, the Vision, would benefit from him beating Roman Reigns so much. Braun Breaker is not scheduled for this show, so you could easily have him out there. getting Reed's back, costing Reigns the match, cheating behind the referee's back. You could easily make it happen. Roman Reigns is also about to go off for an entire month, if not longer, maybe 5-6 weeks. We don't know, to tape Street Fighter. So he's going to be off TV. It's a great way to write him off. You have him lose the match, get beat down. He has a reason to come back and get revenge. End of the day, as much as I love Bronson Reed, as much as he's getting over, which is hugely positive for him, I don't think he's at the level to beat Roman Reigns on a premium live event. So I'm going with Reigns as the winner here. But if they have Reed win, I would absolutely love it. And I do expect, no matter what, Reigns gets taken out, beaten down at the end of the match.
Bronson Reed should win. I don't think he's going to. My pick is Roman. I think Roman wins, and then maybe you do the beatdown afterward, which is the thing I hate that so much in pro wrestling.
I know.
If you're going to knock some, if you're going to have them injure him, just give him the win.
Right.
That's more important. What's even the point? So it should be Bronson. It would help them so much. Seth would love it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine like the thing, Roman, you think you should come after me? You can't even beat Bronson Reed. Like, it separates Seth and Roman in a meaningful way to you eventually want to get back to that later. And it would just be awesome for a guy who is going to be there every week and suddenly has an incredible backstory you can start telling.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's such an obvious thing you should do. The fans are going to get the Roman Reigns entrance. That's fine. They get what they want. They don't really care if he wins or not. I don't think they're going to do it. I think Roman's going to win, and I'll be annoyed.
I'm thinking now the tag team title match, it should happen at Crown Jewel in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
That'd be another place to do it.
The co-main event here for the show, World Heavyweight Championship, Seth Rollins defending against CM Punk, LA Knight, and Jey Uso in a fatal four-way match on Raw. Knight backstage said he wasn't so sure Punk shot at him last week was an accident, as everyone believes, especially given Punk just left him laying there. Then he cut a promo on Braun Breaker saying he would reset him back to factory settings in their match. Really good line. This was made for the main event. Punk later said his offers last week to help, they were all good-natured, but neither of the other faces wanted to play ball, so he's happy to look out for himself, be the best in the world, and become champion. Then he mocked LA Knight's catchphrase, saying, CM Punk. Yeah. Rollins also gassed up Reed and Breaker backstage, given their respective matches at Clash and in the main event of Raw. And then Jey backstage ranted to Roman about not knowing who to trust these days. Reigns said Uso cannot trust Punk no matter what, but he shouldn't be uptight about this. When he's a 2-decade veteran, just go out there, smash people, take the title home. It's not about making friends, but locking in their family legacy. I really enjoyed the individual build for all three challengers leading into the match. It was better than doing another in-ring segment where they all just talk at one another. Though involving Jey with Punk and Knight might have been interesting, seeing all three of them together. Punk and Knight, they had solid lines. The Jey segment with Reigns was pretty meaningful, seeing Roman completely got his cousin's back like a true babyface who's actually turned the corner. We talked about this going into War Games last year. He hadn't really done anything redemptive. He still really hasn't, but now he's at least fully supporting Jey. This doubled down on the point that Reigns' opening promo was trying to make. It was telling us he is a changed man. He is a different guy. So the setup to the main event match, I just thought they knocked it out of the park. It wasn't some in-depth story, but it was enough to give us motivations for all three guys and also tell us the latest on the Jey-Roman relationship.
To kind of play off that, like, Roman losing would also help that storyline.
It would.
Of him needing to kind of find himself again because he lost everything, you know? Like, add a loss to Bronson Reed on top of that. Hey, I lost my wise man, this and that. And then he lost to Bronson Reed. That gives you a much deeper starting point for when you build him back up as we get into Survivor Series, WrestleMania, and what have you. So yeah, I liked him being there to support Jey and all of that. It worked. And it's a built-in reason to keep him away from the title picture until you need him to.
If you guys heard anything weird in the background while Chris was talking, and still now my dog is scratching his ear like a mofo. He just won't stop. So he's fine. But a little bit of background noise there while Chris was talking. And I agree, of course, with your take. Knight and Breaker went to the main event match. Reigns briefly attacked Vision backstage, which included running Breaker into a road case, presumably giving Knight an inherent advantage in their match. That's what I thought. Seeing that this had already taken place, LA went after Braun backstage, and they brawled around the ring with Breaker missing the lariat over the announce table and Knight delivering a flying clothesline off the table ringside. Then the bell finally rang. Breaker talked trash throughout, hit the Brakensteiner, largely dominating until Knight countered the press power slam into a DDT. There was an odd moment where Knight seemed to like roll over Breaker's shoulders with ease, but he had the presence of mind to hit an inverted DDT, keep the match going. Knight caught Breaker on the ropes with a box jump superplex. Then he followed with the jump up elbow drop when Rollins entered running down, looking like the Riddler as a distraction. LA chased him around the ring, only to eat the obvious runaround spear. Breaker then hit another spear in the middle of the ring and got the 1-2-3. Rollins attacked immediately after the bell, so Uce saved after taking his sweet-ass time like Jeff Hardy. When he finally lost the numbers game, Punk entered with the crowd literally singing Cult of Personality, even after the music turned off while he was brawling with Breaker. They went all the way through, I think, the first chorus. That was incredible. The heels dipped out as the fans chanted Seth's a pussy, which was pretty damn funny, and Netflix actually got the bleeping right. Punk helped Uce, but Knight shoved Punk and got in his face. Jay tried to break them up, but stopped caring once LA shoved him. It completely devolved from there. Punk ran Knight into Jay accidentally, so he super kicked LA back, and then he just kind of shrugged and super kicked Punk for good measure, hearkening back to what Roman said about looking out for himself first. I got to give Jay credit. Those two super kicks were very Shawn Michaels, just taking people's heads off for really no good reason at all, shrugging about it at the end. Rollins was thrilled. He had his arm around Breaker, kind of laughing about all of it. Look at them destroy themselves. I assumed that this was going to go right back to the DQ finish and the group brawl shit. So getting a decisive winner, I thought that was appreciated. Though to be candid, I kind of hated that Knight lost a singles match to Breaker when he's one of 3 number 1 contenders for the title. Yes, Rollins interfered. It was circumstantial, obviously. It's still not a great look to have dude lose 6 days before he's challenging for a world championship. Maybe they did this because he's going to get a solo feud on the back end with Rollins. We assumed that would be the case beforehand. In that way, maybe it'll make some sense. For the second straight week, it was an improved main event compared to what had been done the 3 prior weeks. The match was quality itself, real nice back and forth between them, got plenty of time. Don't really have any other gripes besides Breaker winning. Got the job done to build for Clash in Paris, establish there are no friends going into the 4-way. That's actually somewhat counter to how WWE normally builds some of these matches, where you have a bunch of baby faces going against a faction. They all team up and they're all on the same side until the bell actually rings. So in that way, I liked that Rollins was able to kind of instigate and troll the faces at the end, telling Breaker they didn't need to beat them up. They were doing the work for them. It really showcased his like mastermind approach, and it played into the whole visionary deal. So to me, this was a really successful main event and show-long storyline. Again, I saw people angry that, oh, it's another run-in finish. They're a heel faction. This is what they do. I don't know what you guys want.
It is extremely repetitive for like 2 months now. Every Raw main event is a bunch of faces and heels running at the end and their music hits and yada, yada, yada. And so like, again, we got a clean finish, which we were criticizing them for. It's
Not
two in
not
a row,
clean, but decisive.
I'm sorry.
Decisive.
We got a finish,
Yeah.
decisive finish, 2 in a row. That's good. I don't like that LA Knight lost. He shouldn't have lost for the reason you said. He is the number 1 contender. But 2, like, just have LA Knight just like sneak in a roll up or something if you're gonna do that. You know, like Braun, he's the future. Everybody hypes him up. He's the lackey. He's the guy who's supposed to take the loss. You know, LA Knight's not walking out of Sunday with the championship. So like give him a win and momentum and all that stuff, and then he gets beat down by Seth afterward or something. I don't know. But it admittedly is repetitive that it feels like you don't really need to watch the Raw main event until there's, 3 minutes left in the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that. And I didn't love that LA Knight was the one who lost, but I enjoyed what I got.
Yeah, it was enjoyable and entertaining. And at the end of the day, when you're watching television, like that's what you want it to be. In terms of a match prediction, look, in a 4-way, the guy just won the title. There's no way that Rollins is dropping the strap here. Not to Punk, certainly. Knight isn't there. Jay already had his title run. He's not going to get another one. So it would make no sense. This is the most, in my opinion, obvious booking of the entire show. Rollins retains the WWE World Heavyweight Championship.
That is my pick as well. Who do you think he's going to pin?
He will pin. Oh, see, this is a really good question because pinning Punk would be like the ultimate I pinned you again, F you type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pinning Knight would be frustrating because it would seemingly take him out of the picture as a challenger, even though it shouldn't matter who gets pinned. A lot of times in fatal 4-way triple threat matches, the person who does get pinned, they're like, oh, they have no excuse because they're the ones who lost. And I don't think they want to take Knight out of the rotation. So I'm going to say he pins Jay.
It could be, Jay would make the most sense because he's someone who he doesn't really have that much of a storyline going on in here. He's the easiest one. You can move him out of the way. I do worry it's going to be LA Knight, and that's another way LA Knight just moves over to a Braun Breaker feud instead.
Right.
But also it's like, it's too early to do Seth Punk again. Right. So like
seemingly
you don't necessarily need to protect Punk at this point. Maybe he pins Punk right now. I'm going to say LA Knight just because I'm pessimistic after the Raw finish, but I hope it's Jay.
You make a good point. I just don't know which way it's going to go. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's hard.
And the final match on this card, which may or may not be the main event, I have a weird feeling it's going to be. John Cena against Logan Paul. We discussed this entirely in the main event of today's show. So if for some reason you skipped over to this ultimate preview and you want our full breakdown of Cena and Logan, you can check the episode description, find the timestamp, and jump to the main event section where we talk this through. But Chris, look, there's a case to be made for Logan winning, right? And really, Logan winning would be the only actual reason to book this match, to give him the rub, because WWE believes in him and thinks that he can actually be a world champion one day, whether we like it or don't like it. But this is Cena's retirement tour. He's only got, a handful of dates left. This is not the beginning of it. This is not 2 years ago. This is a situation where I think you allow Logan to show out, impress Cena. Maybe he gets a nod at the end or something like that. He gets lifted up. It's been annoying to me that there's been no acknowledgement of them as partners previously. And I hope they get to that on the Go Home SmackDown. Where like, I made a mistake teaming with you, even though you have talent, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, if we're going to be believing in Cena down the stretch of his career with all these remaining feuds, especially now that I'm talking this through, with Brock Lesnar coming up in a month, you cannot have him lose to Logan Paul here. So I have Cena winning this match.
I do too. You don't schedule the match for Logan Paul to get the win because it's Logan Paul's had title matches. It's not going to, again, this is my problem, which I said before, which was Logan Paul is not gaining anything out of a feud with Cena. It's
but that's what I was saying. The only value in booking this match would be for Logan to win and get the rub of beating Cena. But they're not going to do that, which makes it,
if that would be value. So,
but it would be more valuable than not.
My pick is Cena. In terms of whether or not this is the main event, do we think Cena wins and gets beat down by Brock Lesnar again? And if this is the last match on the card, I think that's what's happening.
If it is the last match on the card, that would be my expectation. Because
Nick Aldis says, I heard from Brock Lesnar, and then that was the end of the conversation because Logan knocked him out. And apparently, I assume Nick Aldis cannot just text John Cena what he was going to say.
Right. The next line could have been, he will be in Paris, FYI. Like,
yes,
it's possible.
And Cena didn't know that because Aldis didn't tell him in the one moment he was allowed to tell him. I think it's very possible we get that again.
It is.
And if this is the final match on the card, that's what I'm expecting.
If this main events, I would agree that once it is over, the expectation would be for Lesnar to show up. At the same time, it would feel real repetitive, especially if they do the same thing. We're just one F5. Now, maybe this time they brawl and Cena has him up in an AA and then he takes the F5. Maybe he does a little bit something different. But yeah, once the show is over, there's going to be less than 3 weeks build for WrestlePalooza. So they need to get Brock on screen. Now, I guess they could wait until the following Friday to get him on SmackDown, but I would give Cena that week off, if anything, right? And let him build the final 2 weeks going into WrestlePalooza. So, yeah, I think there's something to that. I think there's a really good chance it main events the show. The World Heavyweight Championship match is star-studded. But for some reason, Chris, it just doesn't feel to me like the biggest match on the card, even though for you and I, it's the one that we prefer.
Yes, I would like Seth Rollins 4-way to be the main event. I don't know. If this opens the card, then I don't think Brock Lesnar is showing up. I only think it's if it's the last match. So we'll see.
The 4-way could open.
Could also open.
Roman Reigns could also open. There's a bunch of options. It'd be one of those three. We'll open the show. All right. Well, look, that is your WWE Clash in Paris Ultimate preview. As always, at the end of our preview, we give you our pre-show expectation grades, what we think our grade is going to be once Clash in Paris ends. Again, you will be able to vote and share your own pre-show and post-show grades on Twitter at Getting Overcast. We post about anywhere between 2 hours to 1 hour before the show begins, and then immediately after the show goes off the air. And of course, we will have your WWE Clash in Paris instant analysis podcast about an hour, 90 minutes or so after Clash in Paris ends, Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening. Chris, when we talk grades here on the show, you always get the opportunity to go first. What is your pre-show expectation grade for WWE Clash in Paris?
I feel like I do this all the time with these shorter cards. I'm going to go B+. I would have had an A- if I thought we were going to have some like monumental, like important thing happen.
Mm-hmm.
But we have the two champions retaining. We have Roman Reigns winning, which would be expected. We have John Cena winning. It doesn't look like a card that's going to have many surprises. Now, if it does, then maybe that grade changes. But I'm going to go B+, like an 89, just below.
See, I was right on the border too between B+ and A-. I think the card is strong and worthy itself of an A- grade. But I agree with you that I don't expect anything to happen on the show that gives us an, oh my God, they changed this title or they did this or that, whatever the case might be. But then, Chris, I hearken back to Backlash in Lyon, right? And on that show, Bayley defended her title. Damian Priest defended his title against Jey Uso, by the way. Cody Rhodes defended his title. Obviously, the main event was crazy because of Styles. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill did win the women's tag team championships, but those were being hot potatoed. And then you had that unexpected Bloodline Kevin Owens Randy Orton match that was just a tag team match, but turned into a street fight that opened the show and just tore the doors off that place. It was so awesome. That was the unexpected moment, I would say, on the show. And it is quite possible they do something similar with Reigns and Bronson Reed. Maybe they open the show and they start brawling before the match begins and someone comes out and says, you know what, let's make this a street fight. And they do a parallel to Backlash. If they do, that could definitely hit. So I am in complete agreement with you this time. I'd like to be at a different numerical grade or a different letter grade, but I'm not. I have this as an 89 out of 100, a B+ coming into the show. That is my expectation. I think they could definitely exceed it. And there's every possibility, especially if they add Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton to this card, which seems possible, that you throw that on here, all of a sudden it's a 6-match card. Randy's super popular.
If you do that, I'm moving. If we add Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, I'm going A-.
I'm probably going 91 A- actually, if that gets added to the card.
Yeah.
So I think there's a chance for them to easily exceed that number. I also think if it is a boring show and everything happens as expected and nothing really cooks, that perhaps it falls below that number slightly. So there we are, both B+ going in. One last reminder, you can vote in those polls on Twitter at Getting Overcast this Sunday, and we will have a WWE Clash in Paris instant analysis podcast Sunday, late afternoon, early evening. As soon as that goes off the air, it's also another good opportunity for me to remind you that we have 2 instant analysis already in the podcast feed from last weekend, NXT Heatwave and AEW NJPW Forbidden Door. There's a lot of podcasting, a lot of performance-enhancing audio still to come your way from Getting Over this week. Like I said, the Instant Analysis Sunday will also have an NXT and AEW episode on Thursday, which is also when we will discuss this incident that happened with Rampage Jackson's son, at an independent wrestling event over the weekend. We'll get into that on Thursday. I wanted the dust to settle a little bit more, but we are not ignoring that here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. On the way out, allow me to remind you that here at Getting Over,
it's all about Defy.
So head on over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Again, you can find us at Getting Overcast on social media, Twitter and Blue Sky, episode drops, news analysis highlights, all of that good stuff. You can also send in questions and comments for the show. On YouTube, you can listen to full-length audio episodes and watch full-length video interviews. Lastly, don't forget,
I happen to love the number
5.
And I hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Vintage, one of the longest shows in the history of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. This is what happens when you're not around for like entire shows for about a month. We have to catch up and shove all our opinions into a single episode. But Silver King Vintage, we never, ever regret giving you as much performance-enhancing audio as we possibly can. So with that said, let's get out of here for Vintage. This is the Silver King signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.